Good morning. Happy Pride as we move through this beautiful June 2026. Heads up, my video looks like it's still in limbo. Hold on, let me check one more time. I knew I was going to be controversial, but I didn't know YouTube was going to put me in jail. YouTube has put me in jail. On my Bert Simon channel, my commentary channel, additional review required up to 24 hours. It's fine. So anyways, I edited all day and then my video got put in YouTube commentary or monetary jail. So I just have to wait to see what happens. Worst case, they kind of tell me what's wrong with it. Probably not, because YouTube doesn't really do that. And then maybe I'll be able to change it. I don't know. I mean, it could be anything. It could be the fact that I have OnlyFans in the title. It could be the fact that I have some pictures throughout the video that I did censor and or should be YouTube friendly. It could be, I don't know. It could be any of the clips I showed. It could, you just never know. So whatever it was that caught the system now is requiring a human review and or they say it's a human review. I don't know if it is a lot of the time. Who knows? But they're going to get back to me. The title of the video is you should start an OnlyFans, probably. Like, you should be vegan, probably. You see a theme here. And so maybe it's the start OnlyFans. They're like, is this an 18+ video? Anyways, we'll see what happens. Okay. I'm sure I can come up with a spicier title. I don't know what it is though, right? Like, I put OnlyFans in my title 1,000 times and never had a problem. So again, I don't know what the problem is going to be this time around. I just, we'll have to wait and see. Okay, so let's see here. You know, there was so much that happened this week, guys, that I'm going to have to, I got very overwhelmed trying to prep for today because there's like 7 or 8 or 10 or 12 stories that I want to talk about that I was just like, holy crap. So we're going to focus on a few stories today, and then throughout the week, we'll sprinkle more in because there is so much happening that and it's all like a lot of what's happening, a lot of what I'm drawn to or want to talk about is just, once again, like why men are fucking up everything. Like, I cannot tell you how much unnecessary harm and violence is being enacted from groups of men. Like, how dare groups of men put out TikTok saying women and children don't come out tonight, it's going to be dangerous for you, and then talk about men protecting their cities. Like, I'm so sick of these groups of people claiming to want to protect the most vulnerable by destroying their own cities. We'll talk about this tomorrow. Either way, you know, when groups of white men gather, be concerned, okay? Be concerned. Let's start off with some LGBT news in the name of Pride today. Queen Jean. Where is the sound? Hello? Hello? Oh, my bad.
The highly acclaimed costume.
Hold on. Hello.
Queen Jean, the highly acclaimed costume designer, has become the first openly trans person to win a Tony Award. She took home the award for Best Costume Design of a Musical for Cats the Jellicle Ball, a reimagining of Andrew Lloyd Webber's Cats musical. During her acceptance speech, she said, quote, "We are here for the legacy of queer people, trans people. We are taking up space in ways we have to take up space. We have to shift the paradigm." Jean also received a nomination for Best Costume Design of a Play for Liberation. Alongside her work in costume design, Queen Jean founded Black Trans Liberation, an organisation that works to end homelessness and food insecurity among the trans community.
Okay,
Queen Jean.
Love this. Here's the second part where she gives a speech.
This experience has been monumental. We are here for the legacy of queer people, trans people. We are taking up space in ways. We have to take up space. We have to shift the paradigm. So I just want to say thank you all so much for this incredible honor. The world right now is deeply, deeply combating so many ailments. And we know as a society that when we come together, we can make real, permanent change. Thank you so much for this honor. This experience.
We love it. And then here is, okay, this is less happy. So that was like really happy. This is more art. Little short film for us today.
I'm queer, of course.
Of course I wonder what life would have been like if I were not. Can I just be
without the fear of not being free? Will I be spared all those years hating myself, wishing I could be somebody else? I wonder if it'd be easier to not feel like acceptance has to be earned, if being myself is not political, to know that I'm exactly how my father wants me. I wonder how I would have grown up, not thinking something was wrong with the way I talk or walk before I even knew what sexuality was. They say being queer is a choice, but why would I choose this? To fight for rights everyone else just gets to embrace? But one thing I don't need to wonder is how much, despite all the struggles I faced, I love my queerness. How different doesn't equal wrong. How I wouldn't have been the person I am today. Just how special it is to find a community full of love and acceptance. All my life I prayed to be normal, but thank God I'm not. I'm extraordinary. I'm queer! Of course I listen to Dula Peep.
Stupid. I love it. Love it. Okay, let me share their TikTok and let me go back to Queen Jean. I'll share the Vulture TikTok so you guys can check that out if you want more information. Okay, now let's do this. That felt pretty warm and fuzzy, huh? That felt pretty warm and fuzzy. Okay, let's do this. I got a question from one of my members said, hey, Brett, what do you think about people raising their children a certain religion? Like, do you think it's unethical? Do you think people should be allowed to raise their children certain religious, even though it may lead to trauma? It just seems like, especially for someone like Islam, which unfortunately disallowing being gay, like explicitly, like it seems there's a lot of harm that could happen there, which worries me. I think this person's a very young person, so let's take that into consideration. You know, I really feel like this is a good question. I think this is a good question. I also think sometimes when you use Islam as like the example, it allows Christianity to get away with their homophobia and transphobia. So we want to make sure that we are holding all patriarchal religions that are anti-LGBTQIA equally responsible, given that they all share Abraham and they all share a lineage. So it's really not unique to Islam. We want to talk about that first. I will say though, as a queer kid who grew up religious, obviously I think there was a lot of negative consequence to that. You know, there's always a joke that my mother's children all need therapy. And it's interesting because the way we talk about my lineage is we talk about my mother. We put a lot of the responsibility on my mother for how we were raised because we came from her body. There's something really deeply, almost like spiritual about the process of bringing a baby into existence and then seeing that baby grow and then knowing how deeply you are connected and love that baby, how much you labored physically for that baby. And then understanding that you might have to, because of your religion, reject that child. Okay, there's something really deeply just devastating about that. I don't think it's unique to religion, though, that children are born into bubbles that indoctrinate their children into believing certain things about certain people, including themselves. That's why we call it internalization. So if you have internalized homophobia, it means you heard how other people talked about gay people and internalized that description about yourself and then wanted to not be that. So you reject it. I'm not like other gays. I'm not like other trans people. I'm not like other people. I'm not obnoxious Tumblr gays. You know, I'm different. Same thing with women. We internalize the misogyny and then we become pick-me's, or we talk badly about other women, or we don't know the difference between holding somebody who's an adult accountable because, you know, not because they're a woman, but because they're an adult, right? So it's internalized. Here's a really good example I want to give you from Hamza, who Hamza goes on basically like Omegle and basically trolls Israelis. But this one's with Bassem, which I think is so interesting. It's just a very quick clip. Here you go. So basically Hamza is Palestinian. He shows up. He goes, hey, he goes, where are you from? And they go, Israel, Israel. And then he goes, I'm Palestinian. That's like every video Hamza puts out. So here you go.
Hello. Hello.
Oh, hold on. Let me turn up the volume. I had all my volume down.
Hello. Hello. Where are you from?
Israel.
I'm from Palestine. The little kids, I mean, they are very innocent, mashallah. The kids,
from a very young age. ما شاء الله أحباب الله يختي عليهم. Hello?
Hello.
And notice, like, these are black girls right here, maybe Ethiopian Jews, you know, and here they are right away, like flipping them off. It's not even about skin color. This is just a whole bunch of brown people mad at each other over what? Cultural expectations. But look at Bassem's patience. And though I have a lot of criticism for Bassem sometimes, I think that generally, like, this is the right response to children. And it's about recognizing how young children are indoctrinated. Now, even if you have good intentions, I think the dilemma here is that the road to hell is paved in your good intentions. So the question about whether or not it's ethical to raise children in religion comes down to whether or not you notice the harm that it causes or does not cause. There's a TikToker named Jeffer who recently posted a video about his mother and him having a conversation about him coming out. It's honestly incredibly triggering. We're not watching it on my channel. It's too much for somebody who's West Asian, whose mother is basically this is my mom. Like, and I wouldn't put my mother on the internet because honestly, I don't think you guys deserve her. Even though she's a bigot and she voted for Trump and she's homophobic, she's my mother, who is the first woman in her family to get divorced. She is my mother who labored 10 children out of her body. So, okay, but watch this conversation and know how devastating it is.
Upset about
He
it,
says, coming out to my Muslim mom.
and then if you am quite upset about it, and then if you maybe and you don't want to change, but maybe later on in life you change your mind.
I would want to change. If I could snap my fingers or press a button and change my sexuality, I would, because I can see how upset it's made you. But I can't. Like, I want to change, but I know you can't change your sexuality. Like, how are you meant to change it? Just change the way you think? No, like, that's not how it works. You can't just change the way you think. But, like, I do want to change because I've always wanted to change. I would stay up every single night praying that I would be straight and I'd wake up straight and I wouldn't like boys. Like, I would do that since I was literally 10 years old. I would pray for that and it never worked. There's nothing that you can do. Like, you like who you like and there's no changing that. You can't change your sexuality. I'm, like, almost certain of it.
You like boys?
What?
I'm quite upset.
This, I mean, it's
What do you think?
it's insane to me because she looks so much like my mom. But I've had this conversation with my mother. My brother's had this conversation with my mother. I mean, he looks like my brother in many ways. This is not only just devastating for the children, it's devastating for the parents. That's why I tell you I have an open with boundaries relationship with my parents. I can't just cut them out of my life, but I can create distance, respectful distance, right? This is a very painful process. And if you know, you know, but if you don't know, you can shut up about it. Because if you don't understand, if you're the kind of person who's like, fuck my mom and dad, I never need to see them again. Like, they're nobody to me. My real family is chosen. I love that for you, girl. Then shut the fuck up when it comes to our families. Because that is not our lived experience. We're having a completely different biological experience. We're having a completely different relationship with our family. Like, you don't know what's going on. You don't know how it tears at you, you know? But it is real. It's real. The parents are suffering. The kids are suffering. And you could argue the suffering is from religion, but I think it's from introspection. I think plenty of religious people have found a way to say, my religion's for me and it's not for you. And I think the problem is when our parents aren't introspective, aren't extrospective, aren't considerate that other people live different lives, then they inflict unnecessary pain on their kids. I really am not an anti-theist. I'm not anti-religious for this reason. I don't care that you're religious. I care that you forgot your religion was for you and not for me.
Okay.
I think if you force yourself,
To change, you can change.
yeah.
You can't change, Mom. You can't. I'm, like, certain you can't change your sexuality. If there was a way you could change, people would know. I mean, yeah, people would know about it, but, like, I'm certain you can't change it. Like,
How people they know if you change it?
what do you mean? Like, other people have... What do you mean?
I mean, if you try to change your feelings, how other people they will know?
They won't... I don't know what you mean. Like, if I pretended to be straight, how would other people know what? Know that I'm gay?
Yeah.
What are you thinking?
I am thinking, is all my fault?
You shouldn't blame yourself. Why would it be your fault? Why would it be your fault?
Because I make you to grow up not liking an environment.
Oh, you mean like, no, but it's not your fault because like you really, really love. I think majority of it is biological, but I think a part of it is your environment. But you did everything that you could have. You really, really loved me growing up. Like you were there for me all the time. You were really loving and kind towards me, and that's like all that I could have asked. Like, you did everything you could in terms of that. So you shouldn't. I think blaming yourself is so stupid. You shouldn't blame yourself. I don't blame myself. It's not my fault, and like I'm aware of that. So it wouldn't make sense for you to blame yourself either. Don't you think? But like, it is what it is. You can't do anything about it. And I'm not going to get a boyfriend or start like getting close to boys or anything like that. I'm just going to hide it. But like, that's why I never had friends who were boys like throughout secondary school. Well, actually I did have one or two, but like majority of my friends were always girls because like I didn't want to be friends with boys because I was attracted to them. I didn't like want a friendship. Does that make sense? Yeah, anyway, so I'm going to ask you some questions. So
Basically, the conversation goes on where he says, I'm not going to get a boyfriend. I'm going to stay single. I'm not going to date for my family. We've all gone through this. If you're in this bubble, I think my siblings and I have all had this conversation. Like, I'll just stay single. I even as a kid was like, I'm going to become a nun, you know, as a way to sort of like say, I'm not going to date anybody, but then I'd be surrounded by girls, you know? Yeah, like the kids are really going through it, and we're going through it young. And we know young, and we have thoughts young, and we're struggling young. And again, this goes back to sort of a conversation about the ethics around raising your kids religious. Always comes down to the ethics of you understanding the harm you're causing on your children. But it's a real struggle. Religion makes you feel like you have to pick. And I'm saying, what good is joining a religion or being in a religion that makes you pick between your kids and your God? But that's the whole thing about patriarchal religion, especially Christian Catholic religions. You know, that's the whole Abraham Isaac story, right? God says to Abraham, you sacrifice your only son for me. And Abraham goes to kill Isaac. And then God goes, JK, it's a test, JK. And it's like, fuck, like that's kind of the problem here. So I think the issue is when adults don't have a strong relationship with the differences between their beliefs and other people's. And I think that's why I'm so anti-patriarchy, because patriarchy comes with this idea that they have the entitlement to dominate. They have an entitlement to make the rules. And that's why I think our parents do these things, because if they didn't have the patriarchal element of it, I think their religious relationship would be personal, more or less. Now, I want to sort of pivot this into a conversation that's happening over on Atheist Religious YouTube about Dan McClellan, who actually had to come out recently because his audience seemed confused that he wasn't an atheist. Now, I've been watching Dan a long time, so I knew he was a theist. I didn't know that he was a Mormon, which is very interesting. Wasn't raised a Mormon. He'll tell you about it. But I think Dan does a very good job at doing his job without making his religion, without being, without making it, this is Dan McClellan, without pushing Mormonism on his audience, so much so that his audience is literally struggling to realize he's not an atheist. Like, they're in the comments like, wait, I am so confused. I don't know what's going on. They're literally having an identity crisis that the guy they loved and promoted because they thought he was an atheist is actually a theist. So again, it's not just about parents having children. It's about how adults handle their relationship with the religion. So here we go.
I'm seeing an uptick in the number of folks who are commenting on my personal religious background, so I thought I would offer a few pieces of clarification. Hey everybody, I'm Dan McClellan. I'm a scholar of the Bible and religion. Clarification number one, I am not an atheist. You are free to feel any way you like about that. I harbor no ill will whatsoever towards atheists as individuals or as a group, but it's not a group with which I identify. Even though I will come to the defense of atheists and atheism frequently, I am not an atheist. Clarification number two, I am an active member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the LDS Church or the Mormon Church. And for 10 years, I was the scripture translation supervisor for the church. But I was not raised in the LDS Church. I joined the church when I was 20 years old. Again, you are free to feel any way you like about that, but I am an active member of the LDS Church. I was not raised in that church. Clarification number three, my personal religious beliefs have nothing to do with the scholarship that I share on this channel, whether my own scholarship or my attempts to try to represent the scholarship at large. Again, you are free to feel any way you like about that, but when folks try to assert that I'm some kind of apologist for Mormonism or the Book of Mormon, or that I feel the way I do about these scholarly positions only because of my Mormonism, you are betraying an abject and a laughable ignorance of both Mormonism and my scholarship, and it is rather embarrassing. So you can save those comments. I am not an apologist for Mormonism. My scholarship is not under the influence of Mormonism, as anyone who has any appreciable degree of understanding of either already knows. So I hope that has been helpful for y'all. Obviously, you can feel any way you like about my clarifications, and you are free to comment in any way you like. But for those who are actually curious about my own personal religious background, that's what I have for you. I don't talk about my personal religious beliefs on my channel. It's not what my channel is about. It will just get in the way of trying to represent the data and the scholarship, whether that's the broader academy or my own scholarship. Hope that's helpful. And the fit for this video has been the captain.
So his comment section, this is so hard to understand. Okay, but why? The question isn't your affiliation. It's about how you reconcile your scholarship with belief system, because it's with your belief system, because it's very difficult to discern how you get from one to the other and hold your beliefs and your scholarly understanding simultaneously. This is a tough one to watch, but how? Honestly, I'm confused to hear this. It does seem like a conflict of interest, but you seem to navigate it well. I did not see that coming. I'm somewhat confused. Whoo, you know what I'm saying? So there is an ability. I think it's very hard. I think Dan is very skilled at it, separating his own personal relationship with God and what he does on his channel. And I only wish that other religious people could be as skilled as Dan in this, because as much as I might have heat for Dan personally, maybe over these things, he also has been pro-LGBTQIA, pro-women's rights, pro-abortion rights. Like, he's talked about legality and the, coming to terms with sort of choice. And so that's why I think people also thought he was an atheist, because he certainly isn't like any Mormon I've ever met, I also thought it was cute that him and Britt Hartley did a little collaboration together, because, she was infamously Mormon. Okay. I want to give you some examples of just a couple of people talking about Dan's recent video, just as an example. This is a short little video.
My personal religious beliefs have nothing to do with the scholarship that I share on this channel.
If an evangelical Christian scholar said that their belief in eternal hellfire had no impact on their discussion of biblical texts, would you believe them? When we're talking about religion, a topic of cosmic significance, the idea that we can so cleanly separate data from our personal beliefs is at best an illusion.
You are betraying an abject and a laughable ignorance of both Mormonism and my scholarship.
Look, I have no beef with Dan's Mormon affiliation, but to call genuine skepticism laughable and ignorant certainly doesn't earn my trust. Trust is earned through our transparency about our worldviews. Can a scholar of religion ever truly be objective about their work?
My personal religious...
This comes back down to often political conversations people have about Joe Biden being a, quote, Catholic, but then being pro-choice politically, and him saying, as a politician, it's not my job to tell other Americans that they can't have abortions, even if I'd never have an abortion. And I think that this is where Catholics really hate liberal Catholics, because they're like, no, you're a Catholic first and a political person second. So when we talk about parenting and raising our children, how you can't start banning religious people from having kids. First of all, that'd be billions and billions and billions and billions of people on this planet. Second of all, it'd be deeply, deeply cruel to control people's bodies to that extent. In what? The name of saving children? We're animals on a planet. We're going to have to carry the burden that our children will be impacted and traumatized by religion. And that's why we do our best to help children out of that journey to the best of our ability. Right? But I think there is something to be said about a person's inability to do this, I think, is a problem. Right? So yes, everything is political and everything is intertwined, but I would rather live in a world where adults attempted to learn the differences between rules for you and rules for other people, and assuming that everyone had to. That's why I don't make prescriptions. Right? That's why I don't make prescriptions, because even though I'm doing something for my values, I'm not telling you to do it. You should do it because you think it's right. And the question is like, what do you think is right? It's also why I say all the time, I will protect Muslims at any needed point, because Muslim people don't deserve to be discriminated against because they're Muslims. You know what I'm saying? Like, I might disagree with this religion, and I might have strong disagreement to this religion. And yet I will never have such a strong disagreement to your religion that I will allow you to be beaten, kidnapped, killed, or anything because you are religious. And this goes for every religious person. So I think we have to be very careful about this idea that like, oh my gosh, they can't separate it. Like, if they're religious, they can't separate it, because what you're doing is you're allowing people to feel dignified and killing your mother and father because they, quote, can't separate their religion from their beliefs. You know what I'm saying? So like you got to be very careful with the, what is the conclusion if this is the premise, right? Chat said, question, can you be religious and not subscribe to everything, i.e. get an abortion? I'm not sure. It depends on the religious institution and the rules that religious institution has set forth for its people. So it's very dependent, I think. Okay, here's another stitch from Summer.
By Dan McClellan fans. I'm kind of entertained by Dan McClellan fans losing their mind over the fact that he is still a Mormon and practicing member of the church. I think it's so difficult for us to remember that other people have different ideas and opinions. And we need to leave space for that in this pluralistic society that we are in. It's like we see a person who we admire and looks normal and we're like, oh, I like that person. Wait a minute. They think different things than I do? How can this be? It is wild that people are saying like, hey, please talk about why you still believe what you believe. Because it's like, you can't even talk about why you like pepperoni pizza on TikTok without people tearing you to shreds. Can you imagine him talking about his beliefs? So, I left the Mormon church. I do not like it. Also, a lot of people who are in the Mormon church, they don't pay tithing and they don't believe a lot of the things that the church teaches, like the people in Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. So anyways, I'm kind of entertained.
I think the issue is that we forget too that a lot of people don't go to church because they deeply believe something. Sometimes they just go to church because they like their friends and they're there, or their community is there. So going back to this question from the chatter, do you think people raising kids religious? What do you think about people raising their children a certain religion? Right? Like, I think it's less that you're raising your kids religious and more about your relationship. And do you understand that the world doesn't revolve around you and your religion? So that's the dilemma that I'm seeing in a lot of these conversations. But I think it's fair, and we're all in a different deconstruction journey. And I think it's really hard. Like, looking back at my life, I used to tell people that like, oh, I was a hardcore Catholic till I was 19. But that's a fucking lie. Like, even when I was a Republican, I'd be like, oh yeah, I was Republican till like, I think I re-registered like at 21, Guys, the whole time I was there, I was fucking asking questions and arguing with everyone. I was literally the only Republican advocating for LGBTQIA people, so much so that the other Republicans started to ask me like, hey, are you gay, bro? And I'm like, what? Me? And they're like, are you a homosexual? I was like, no. Ew. And then I came out at 21 and re-registered and the whole thing, okay? When I was a Catholic, and I was going to confirmation camps and everything, I was constantly like, hold up, I have a question. I was literally kicked out of nun camp for asking too many questions about gay people and abortion. So even the way I identified myself was almost to get street cred from the Christians. Like, I was one of you. But the truth is, girl, I mean, I was one of you, but I wasn't like one of you. You know what I mean? And so I think that's the dilemma we have with the way we tell our stories about our identity, is we'd like to believe like, oh my God, I was a hardcore. I was so there. Were we though? Were we there? I mean, at 15, I literally begged my mother not to force me to get confirmed because I wasn't sure about Catholicism. And then she was like, you have to do it no matter what. And I was like, okay, which by the way, our priest friend says was a no-no, that I had to do it of my own volition. So technically, does it even count, really? So that, I think that's the dilemma. It doesn't sound like Dan McClellan. It sounds like he personally is finding something out of Mormonism that is helpful for him. Great. If your parents personally find something out of religion that's helpful to them, amazing. I think the issue comes down to the prescriptions we make, the way we force our kids in a direction, the way we talk about people around our children, like the way my parents used to talk about gay people. Really, I really like heard that and internalized it. And I really felt like that's why I was suicidal since I was 8 years old, because I was like, oh no, like I hear the way my parents talk about gay people. Like I hear it and I'm like, uh-oh, like, am I that gay person? And I went through that stage too, where I was like, I'm not going to date people. I also went through the stage where I felt bad for women. I made this whole video during lockdown because even though I understood my position, I hated the idea of putting a woman through that, of putting somebody through dealing with my family. And then I realized that it was okay for me to ask a woman to deal with my family. I used to think it was like a burden for them. Like, why? I don't want to cause unnecessary pain and suffering on people. And so I thought, like, why put a woman through that? But the truth is like my partner will help me fight my battles, and then there's open with boundaries. Like, I think that plays a role. Like, I mean, it's not like, it depends too on how the life goes. Like, I live in a different country as my family. My parents haven't even met my partner. I mean, they haven't even talked to him. Like, they've never really had a phone call with him. They don't know him. And at the end of the day, like, that's the biggest part of this is like, you're only as involved as you are involved. Because otherwise, And this goes back to even if I was single again, I think about this all the time. If I was single again, like I wouldn't just move back into my family bubble. I would try to like probably form a little bubble with my gay siblings or something. And then we'd be like together because I couldn't go back to that bubble. I think conservative parents underestimate how triggering and traumatizing their bubble is for their kids. I mean, my siblings and I message me, they're always messaging me like I was hanging out with the family, but like I can only take like an hour and then it's over because they don't allow a space for us to have equal say and belief. Like, yes, we can argue, yes, we debate, but it's always like the default is their religion is more right, which is why this gay boy here, Jeffer, he is absolutely putting himself to the side for his mother because that's how we're raised. We're literally raised to say our existence is secondary to our parents' comfortability. And by the way, I don't like the way y'all talk about our parents. I actually fucking hate it. And I actually think this is why I remember I watched a podcast with a bunch of people of color talking about how their parents beat them. And I was like, this is a safe space. I don't like the way sometimes people who aren't in these bubbles talk about our families as specifically like a certain type of white person. I don't want to have this conversation with you because you're actually not helping me feel reassured about my family because you don't understand the ties I have to my family. So many of my white friends are able to cut their family off and never talk to their parents again. I don't want to talk to you about my family because like you don't get it. You don't have hundreds of people you're connected to because you look the same or you have the same bloodline. You don't have 17 uncles and aunties. Like you don't have 60 first cousins. You don't understand what it means to be a part of a community. And so for you, you're just like, oh yeah, I'll just cut them off. Like I hate talking to certain white people about this experience because it feels just as equally unsafe. Because you're not understanding how much we love our family, that you cannot replace. I would rather my mother than you every day, but not because I don't love you, and not that I don't want to spend more time with my progressive friends or something, but that this is my mother we're talking about, a woman who experienced 14 hours of labor just to bring me into the universe. I'm not going to sit here and scoff at this woman. You know, this is between us. You know what I mean? So I think sometimes when we have these conversations about like how evil are our parents evil for bringing us, I think it's so much more complicated and nuanced than that, you know? Like it's so much more than the world could ever understand. I do, and I would recommend that if you bring a child into the universe, I hope you spend as much time as needed to work on yourself and to love your kids and to do your best with explaining to your children that like, I might not agree with this, and this is my belief, and give your child a chance to share theirs. And I think there's like a level of intimacy that I cannot explain to you that exists in households where you have these types of conversations with your family. Like it's a very intimate process that I just don't see other people having. So I would just like you to think about before you bring a baby into the universe, okay, to answer this person's question, is to think about the impact you're going to have on that child because it's going to be real. It's going to be so, so real. I mean, heck, if the impact of a TikToker named Dan McClellan was so impactful, his adult audience is having a fucking, then how do you think your child's going to feel? Right? Discord said, has Dan always been open as a non-atheist? I'm so confused. Yeah, as far as I know, Dan has been pretty clear that I don't know, because my partner and I do watch him enough that we were under the impression he was a theist. Or at least like, it depends on how much you watch of him and how you hear his content. But like these people are typically educated in religious institutions. So then the follow through is if you're educated in religious institutions, then now the question is, okay, because you don't just do that. That means you probably have ties to a religion. I just didn't know he was Mormon, right? But look at his adult audience having a midlife crisis over Dan McClellan coming out as a theist, even though, you know what I mean? He wasn't trying to hide it. Now imagine, you know, your family dynamics with parents and kids, right? Chet said, how do you recommend navigating parents who left their religion but still enact the exact power dynamics from it? I still don't have a say in conversation, even though verbally they say I should. I think I don't know, except to say that I am experimenting currently, as you guys probably know, with an open and boundary situation with my parents, where I'm telling them, okay, so my sister tells me the other day, she's at a get together with family members. And my mom goes to the family members like, Brittany's still not talking to us. And they're like, oh my gosh, is she okay? Like, And my sister was like, she's happy. She's like really happy. I just talked to her the other day for like 5 hours on the phone. Like, she's so happy and she's happy. Everything's good. And they go, okay, as long as she's happy. And then my sister goes, wait, why aren't you talking to mom? Like, do you want her to like, can you explain it to me again? I was like, girl, if I have to explain it to you 1,000 times, no wonder mom's not getting it. My parents cannot understand what I'm trying to do. Not even my siblings. My sister finally got it, I think. But I have to explain it to them because it's the first time in my family I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to tell them, we have to have the conversation for real, for real. We cannot debate. We cannot talk over each other. I need to have the real conversation. I'm not trying to tell them to be anti-religious. Like, even my sister was like, are you asking them to be okay with gay people? I'm like, no. She's like, are you asking them not to be Republican? I'm like, no. She's like, are you asking them not to vote for Trump? I said, no. And she goes, well, what do you want them to do? And I was like, I want them to have a real conversation about our brothers, about our family, about our uncles, about the issues in this family. I want to have a real conversation about our grandma getting married at 10 years old. I want to have a real conversation about the issues in this family. And she was like, man, that's really tough. And I was like, that is really tough. I just want to have a real conversation. Now, the dilemma is they might not ever do that. And then the question is, will I be willing to see them on their deathbed if they're unwilling to do that? Or should I put this aside and just have regular conversations with my parents, which, by the way, are basically small talk at this point, because what the fuck do we have to talk about if everything comes back to philosophy and politics? Like, my family's very political. So guys, every conversation comes back to philosophy and politics. So then we have to talk about the stuff in the family. Do you get what I'm saying? So yes, if my parents want to talk to me, they can call me. We have to have a real conversation because everything is connected. My family's the trauma my parents experience as children absolutely impacts and contributes to their relationship with their religion and politics. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, everything about our family dynamic is connected to the trauma in this family. Everything we do is connected. So again, it's about deconstructing and pulling it apart together. I wish my family could come together like a group project and all of us go, oh, you remember the time this happened? Okay, let's talk about it. Oh, remember this? I want us to have an open dialogue about the impacts of being in a community that loves each other so unconditionally and yet is so conditionally traumatized, you know? And so, yeah, I want to have those conversations. Until we have those conversations, I cannot in good faith call my parents and tell them about my day. Because remember that because of their religion, they couldn't come to my wedding. Remember that because of my brother's religion, my partner and I, like my nieces and nephews, don't call my partner auntie or uncle because we're not religiously married. I want you to process that information. My nieces and nephews don't have an extra uncle in the family, which is such a blessing because of religious differences. Do we understand the impact of what this is? This is such a big impact on children. You are now stealing away from those kids any incentive or connection. They're not even going to think of my partner as their uncle. Because even when I talk to the kids, I have to reference my partner as Mr. So-and-so instead of Uncle so-and-so. That is, you took away an uncle from the family. You know, and God knows when those kids get older and they learned about gender deconstruction, it's going to be a whole other thing. So yeah, like, can religion be incredibly damaging? 100%. Yeah, 1,000 billion trillion %. And can it be something very rewarding for people? Sure, 1,000%. I just think we obviously have to take responsibility. And it's not just religion, guys. It's bad parenting in general, right? It is also parenting in general. We act like secular parents are good. They're not. Atheist parents are just as shitty. They're just as homophobic and racist. They're just as awful and bigoted and misogynistic. They also have problems. Like, God knows. You know what I'm saying? Like, for me, I don't see a clear difference between, what if your parent was Sam Harris or Richard Dawkins? What good is that? What good is that? Nothing. It doesn't help. It's the same bullshit. You're still being raised by white supremacists, like bigots. You're still being raised by fucking, you know what I mean? Islamophobes. You're still being raised by misogynists. You know, like, so what good is it? You know? So again, for me, it's not the fact that you're an atheist or religious. It's the fact that you're just like a shitty parent. And it's because you're a shitty adult. And it's because you haven't done the work to deconstruct your shitty childhood. And it all goes back to that. Look, I'm very empathetic. We're all animals on a planet. I understand it's not your fault. It's just the reality of your circumstance. We have to be responsible and we got to do something about it. You know, here we are bringing babies into the universe without ever working on ourselves or giving our child self like any kind of healing or closure. You know, what are you going to do? Chet says, Britt, my heart goes out to you. Very similar situation with my mom. Unfortunately, many reminder lies or block things entirely. It's important to look at your values. If they pass tomorrow, how would you feel? It's a deep convo on the realistic change that will have the relationship you're okay with too. Heartbreaking. Yeah, I mean, I'm at the stage right now. I'm 37, so it's a very different experience. I'm really ready for my parents to die. It's okay. Like, I accept it. I understand. My parents are old. They could die tomorrow. I'll be sad. I'll cry about it. I'll take time off stream. But them living isn't adding goodness to my life. Their presence, active presence in my life is causing me more harm. So I love them so deeply. I love them more than I'll ever love any one of you fuckers, okay? And at the same time, like, yeah, they're really, really, yeah, even casually having them around is just not helpful. You know, it sucks. That really sucks that I'm in that position I shouldn't be as their parent. You know what I mean? And I think that, or as their kid, I shouldn't be in that position, but I am. So here I am. And, you know, it will be like, oh, Brittany did this. Oh, Brittany's the reason. I'm the kid, even though I'm the adult, I'm still the kid in the situation. So once again, it's like the kids have to be the bigger people. But with peace and love, my everyday life is so good right now. My marriage is good. Our everyday life is good. We're so queer and safe in this bubble. You know, my in-laws are pro-LGBT, like they're anti-Trump. It's just such a good, safe space. You know, I have my bestie's parents. I call them all the time. I'm always on the phone with my bestie's mom, and she's known me since I was 9 years old. So I have adults in my life I can call. You know what I mean? I had mothers on Mother's Day that I called. I had 3 different women I got to talk to on Mother's Day, and I would have loved that 4th to have been my mother, but it is what it is. You know what I mean? My mother is an adult. If she would like for me and her to have a good relationship, the ball is in her court. They are 100% capable of having a good and healthy relationship with me if they would do the work. And if they would do the work, I would absolutely love to talk to them every day, all day. My mother and I are the kind of mother-daughter that would talk to each other every day on the phone. There was a time in my life I wouldn't even go a day without talking to my mom on the phone. So I tell you this, I know what it's like to be in a space. And this is why I say, I was just catching up with a friend about this, where they were like, during lockdown, I was worried you were going more conservative. And I was like, honestly, it's because when I'm around my parents, the only way, my sister and I just talked about this, the only way for us to be in my parents' presence is to find anything we have in common, even if it's kind of like a lie, and kind of like talk about that one thing. So during lockdown with my family, which was an amazing experience in some ways, yes, I had to almost become not really conservative in my embodied belief, but almost in the way that I spoke in order to even create peace in the family. But then what that did was betray my actual belief, and it betrayed my audience. So then that was the era of my life where I made like not the greatest content, because it was reflecting what was happening in my life. And I was like, oh, no. I need to make sure that my family problems and my family language stays in my house. And when I come to work, I express my most honest, transparent, embodied self, because like, I do not want the masking I have to do for my family to ever fucking show up here. And that's what I think was happening. You know, now that I look back at that content, I was like, oh, no. I got to deconstruct, embody, move forward, and be unapologetic. Because again, like, this is the one space I have to be unapologetically myself, because my parents don't watch my content. My relatives don't watch my content. I don't have to worry about them watching my content. This isn't for them or about them. And this is why, though, I think in many ways my past was about building bridges between conservatives and liberals, and because I wanted to believe that if I could help strangers on the internet build bridges and connect them, maybe I could save my family. And then I went through a huge philosophical journey, and I realized that it was not my job to hold on to the attachment of outcome, and that regardless of the outcome, the goal should be about doing the right thing. And so that's what I'm doing now. And it's really working. I sleep pretty good at night. You know, I mean, I've never really slept great at night, but I sleep pretty good at night, you know? Yeah, what are you going to do? You know? Let's see. Anybody have any comments or questions on this? Chess, I'm in a place where I feel like my mom is just one good convo away from seeing the light, so I'm making it my mission to open her eyes this year. After that, we'll see. Good luck. Honestly, I love that, though. I wish our parents could see that. I wish our parents could see how much we struggle because we miss them. Like, I wish they could see this stream and understand how much we love them. Like, I wish they could see this video. Like, you know, honestly, I don't love that he put his mother on the internet because I don't think the internet deserves his mother. And I actually don't love this. It's the only video on his YouTube channel that's truly doing amazing in views because it's so relatable, but I'm not going to watch it. I'm sorry. Like, I don't want to see your mom get dragged on the internet, and I don't want to see you get dragged either. And yes, it makes for good content and it's relatable, but like, fuck. Like, you don't deserve my mother. The internet is not a place that deserves my parents. My parents are too good for the internet. And I say that as somebody who recognizes that they're bigoted. But like, the truth is you don't know what my parents have been through, and you don't get to speak on them. I get to talk about it. You don't get to talk about it. Okay. Discord said, you def made me realize my parents were centrist growing up and I've never been conservative. Yeah, like that's the other part of it that I think is so interesting too. Like, I think a lot of people, you know, who knows what your parents do or everyone goes through or how you see your parents. But I just find that there's a very specific group of people who understand exactly my lived experience, and it is a very specific one. But it's like, even when I talk to other religious evangelical kind of people, I'm like, I don't know what you're going through. I don't get it. I don't know what this is. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know what this is because I'm not having the same experience. And I think that's what's so interesting and beautiful about me sharing my story is it helps you reflect on yours and vice versa. You share your story, it helps me reflect on mine. And kind of knowing which one you're in is very, very important because it will help you navigate what to do, right? It will help you navigate, you know? Chess said it's low-key a fantasy. I have to just go to lunch with my parents and our values align and I can talk freely and they just agree. Ugh, I know. Oh, I know. Ugh, I know. Me too. Yeah, me too. Right? Chess had attachment to the outcome. Absolutely, girls. Absolutely. Like, it freed me so much to know, like, I'm just going to do the right thing. And I think loving my parents from a distance is the best thing I could do right now. I love them so much. But I don't think it's helping them for me to have faux conversations with them. I remember a few years ago, my mom goes, there was a drag queen or trans woman. I think she was a drag queen. I don't remember. She died and the Catholic Church recognized her. And the local church, and my mother was so upset. And she said, maybe it was a trans woman. I don't know why I keep thinking she was a drag queen, but I don't know. Could be both. Maybe she's both. But my mother was like, I don't understand this. Isn't this offensive? And I said, I don't know. Talk to your local priest. I don't know. The priest allowed it. It's not my business. And my mom was like, why can't I be a feminist? I was like, you can be. You can be a TERF, trans exclusionary radical feminist. She goes, I don't want to be a TERF. I just want to be a regular feminist. I was like, okay, then you can be a Susan B. Anthony feminist. And she was like, I don't want to be that. I want to be a modern feminist. I was like, okay, then you're going to have to deconstruct patriarchy. And she was like, I don't want to do that. And I was like, okay, you want the title without any of the work. And I hear you. There are all kinds of feminists. You can be all kinds of feminists. You can do all kinds of things. Okay. But you can't be invited to the feminist cookout that I'm going to create. Sorry, barbecue cookouts for the Black community, I believe. Purely. I think about cookout. I think Black community. My bad. You can't come to the get together. Okay. Until you do the work, okay? And my mom she wants to be included so badly, but you can't just be included. This actually reminds me of, okay, I'll just mention it really quickly. My Discord and I are having a conversation right now about Chelsea Fagan's new video about Ariana Grande's body, which I think is like a very inappropriate video. But Chelsea throughout the whole video is signaling like centrist feminist. This girl is signaling liberal feminist. She keeps saying common sense. Like, girl, Chelsea specifically said she stopped hanging out with younger people and watching younger people, and she's only watching divorced women over 50. Girls, divorced women over 50 are still deconstructing patriarchy. Chelsea's a feminist and I'm a feminist, but Chelsea can't hang out. She can't come. Do you know why? Because she's literally signaling conservative values. She likes Scott Galloway. She literally talked about how much she loves Scott Galloway. Like, what are you doing, Chelsea Fagan? And it's because she's rolling around. I can tell who she's hanging out with. Do you know what I'm saying? I can tell who she's hanging out with. And I would love for Chelsea to come and hang out at the feminist barbecue, but she literally is like a very specific type of feminist. And I'm like, you can't come. Common sense. You know what I'm saying? Common sense. No. Okay. And this is what I mean with all of our parents, with my mother, with everybody else. Like, you guys want to be invited, but you don't understand why we have an issue. Why are people kind of trying to control me? And even Chelsea was like, look, if that doesn't make me woke, whatever. That's so conservative of you to be like, if that doesn't make me woke. She goes, do not insult my common sense. Girl, have you been watching Dave Ramsey? Okay, literally, like, you know what? It's just so silly. I say that as somebody who does watch a lot of Dave Ramsey, who, by the way, I do love how much they tell women to get divorced. Do you know Dave Ramsey's community, which I watch all the financial shows, so it's not unique that I watch Dave Ramsey, but they have told so many women to get divorced over the last year that their own audience was like, why do you keep telling women to get divorced? Isn't this a Christian channel? And they're like, yeah, we're going to tell women to stay in abusive relationships. Like, even Dave Ramsey has been telling women to get divorced. They're like, divorce, leave him. Do you know what I'm saying? So listen, as somebody who watches a lot of Dave Ramsey's channel, I like his other personalities better. I think that they give incredibly good advice to Christians. I love when someone tells someone to get divorced. It's my favorite thing to hear. Okay, so again, like I'm here for a little bit of change. So Dave Ramsey is a good example. Some of the conversations my mom and I could have that were safe were about Dave Ramsey. Oh, hey mom, did you see Dave Ramsey's step? We're on step so and so. Oh, hey mom, like this was a safe space. Like my family's very Dave Ramsey, so it was like a safe conversation to have with the family. You know what I mean? Like you pick and choose the safe conversations to have with your friends and family, but it's not just about safety. It's about connection. That you're so desperate for connection, you'll settle on Dave Ramsey. You're like, okay, sure. Yeah, I watch Dave. Let's talk about money, I guess. But damn, how deep of a relationship can you have if you know you're sidestepping the truth? Like my mom and dad can tell. They'll say like, what are you hiding? They'll say, oh, I can tell you're not talking. Oh, I can tell you're avoiding. Like, it's not like my family doesn't say it. It's not like we're not white people. We're not wasps. It's not like people don't call you out and say like, you're not saying the full, say it, say what you're thinking. Like we're very in your face, like say it. So it's not like we can just be in a conversation together and pretend something isn't happening. Oh, somebody's going to say something. Me, my mom, somebody's going to say, I mean, heck, I think one of the biggest ways to say something's happening is to be silent and just be like, make a facial expression at your sibling. And then everyone goes, and then mom and dad go, what? What's happening? Say it. It's a very different experience. So again, all of this to say, I wish parents would do more work before having kids. And I wish kids could go on a journey of healing as fast as possible to remember that their parents are human too. And though it's their first time on the planet as well, it is your only time on the planet. So I hope you fall in love. I hope you live your life. I hope you find it in your spirit to liberate yourself from the constraints of your family legacy and to remember that you have a very short time on earth. And I hope you spend it radically loving yourself and radically loving others. And that's what I have to say about that. Thank you for the question. And whoever sent it, I hope that answers that. Yeah, Discord said, I have to say your mom is kind of cute for that. I see why you love her so bad. My mom or somebody else's mom? Wait, is that to my mom? Because I will say, just if you're talking to me, my mother wanting to be a feminist is because she wants to be in my life. And she doesn't know how. You know what I mean? Like my mother saying, I want to be a feminist is literally my mother saying, I want to be in your life and I want to be accepted and I want to be an equal and I want to be seen as smart and resilient and capable. Yeah. Oh. Let's take a break. Hello, I'm back. Didn't know my bangs were looking so crazy. Pausing music at 1, 2, 3. Okay, I reset. What a morning. I made coffee. I talked to my partner. I reset my feelings. I yelled about how men are so annoying, and now I feel better. Okay. La, 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 la. Good first start of the day, girls. Look at us, really fucking getting shit done, you know? What a way to open up the day, you know? Okay, 2 more stories I want to cover with you I think are important. So I wake up this morning and I get a comment on my video, and I think to myself, what is this? What is this, girls? What is this, okay? This person goes, is it a look, the person who went viral for the odd little girls are kinky comment? I feel like this was even covered on this channel. Am I mixing things up? And I was like, a look? Are a look? The great philosopher / comedian, a look? I was like, what is this? They say, this is so bizarre. I remember this being everywhere. It now feels like the internet has been scrubbed clean of any remnants of comments. The only thing I could find was an ex post quoting them as having said, narrative is, trans people will come into bathrooms and abuse little girls. There are no princesses. Little girls are also kinky. I can imagine the context in which these comments were made might have been one where transfer-phobic rhetoric was being pushed. I think they mean transphobic. But I'm sorry, not even the context do I think this response is okay. And I'm like, hold on, girly. Hold on, girly. Then they say, okay, I found the full post. So I'm going to read to you the post. And then I'm going to tell you, okay, what I did with this information. And I'm going to show you once again, okay, why I knew this was a red flag the moment I saw the comment. Are you ready? They quote the post as saying, the U.S. routinely searches for new legal scapegoats to deposit its fears and anxieties around gender / sexual deviance. In the past, this has included the witch trials, sodomy laws, hypercriminalization of suspected gay pedophilia, and in the late 20th century and the most recently dozens of states and local anti-trans bills across the country. Well, the face / identity of alleged perpetrators have changed. The supposed purity of the victims has remained quite stagnant. These days, the narrative is that freaky transgender people, or as they say, cross-dressers, will come into your bathrooms and abuse innocent little girls. This type of legal / carceral culture relies on 2 things: the construction of morally abhorrent perpetrators and scapegoats, and the production of pure, innocent victims. In this case, as in so many cases in the past, those victims are archetypal, white, cis, innocent little girls. We totally need to challenge the white Christian supremacist right-wing rhetoric around trans bodies. Absolutely. But we also need to seriously overhaul the idea that there is a perfect victim anywhere. Okay. Now it's like, ooh, that's spicy. Ooh, what is this? Okay, hold on. Wait for it. They say, I believe in the radical notion that little girls, like the rest of us, are complicated people. There are no fairy tales and no princesses here. Little girls are also queer, trans, kinky, deviant, kind, mean, beautiful, ugly, tremendous, and peculiar. Your kids aren't as straight and narrow as you think they are. Like everybody else, I've been a cute little girl. And a gender nonconforming young adult. Let me tell you, everywhere along that spectrum, I've been complicated and strange. In the 1973 horror flick The Exorcist, it's my favorite snapshot of the cultural place of white cis little girls. In this film, a little girl with a single mother is possessed by the devil. From another perspective, the little girl is actually exploring her sexuality, masturbation, and so on, and her own demons and meanness. Obviously, white men from the church have been brought to save her since her single mom can't do it alone. What if instead of moving from the Exorcist model of little girl, we move from a place that acknowledges that no one is a perfect, pure flower that can be corrupted, that everyone is at once capable of receiving and enacting violence, including little girls, that we all give and receive violence to varying degrees, but that this is not a fairy tale. No one is purely good or evil. Look around. There are no princesses. Okay. Right? Interesting. Fascinating. Okay, Oh, interesting. So they're saying a look. Do you guys know who a look is? Does anyone need me to show you? Let me show you. A look, which I have featured on my channel a lot. Okay. This is a look, right?
I worry that we call ourselves proud even though we're not.
Right? So I share a look a lot. And they're like, oh, didn't a look say these things? And I'm like, that doesn't make any sense. That doesn't sound like the person I've been watching. Okay. So then right away, what do I do? What do I smartly do? This person went through all of the trouble of posting the comment, saying, oh, it must have been scraped from the internet. This is what I could find. But you didn't have the energy to keep looking further. So here's one of the first links that came up. A random Medium post says your fave is an anti-black CSA gentrifier. They mention a look right here. Okay. Do we need to keep promoting such authors? I've linked some tweets of them showing for some, but they're not showing for some reason. I'm including a screen grab that I edited. So if the tweets are deleted, the privacy of this person is protected, right? So now they're saying they're also anti-black, which by the way, if you just Google really quick, absolutely no history of a look ever being anti-black. But you know what did come up? This link right here, and it said fact check. And I was like, ooh, what's this? A look's website, fact check. Hey, I need your help. Right-wing and trans-exclusionary media spread. Hold on, let me move it over so you can read it better. Okay. Media spread lies about trans and non-binary people to delegitimize our existence and justify harassment against us. This slander continues uninterrupted because it's profitable. Since the majority of the news shared on social media is anti-trans and factually inaccurate, I want to get something straight. These forces have misattributed a 2016 Facebook status about girlhood to me that I did not write. These words, ideas, and life experience are not mine. This status, an analysis of film I haven't seen, was written by a former colleague who was born female. The author states that in the text, I have been a cute little girl. This has been glossed over and erased in order to demonize and discredit me. I have never been a girl. Anyone familiar with my life knows I'm a non-binary, trans feminine person who grew up a boy. For over 15 years, I've written, spoken, and published a book about this experience. This is how confirmation bias works. People believe, because people believe that trans, feminine, BIPOC are monsters, they ignore overwhelming evidence otherwise to reinforce their views. The trope of a trans, feminine, BIPOC as dangerous and predatory, especially to women and children, is part of a long-standing project to dehumanize us. This myth is used to deny our rights. The actual data shows that trans, feminine, BIPOC are the most likely to face discrimination and violence. We are not the threat. Racism and trans misogyny are. Society prioritizes other people's words and projections over my life. This persistent malignant takes a dire toll on my body and spirit. Please correct the record and combat disinformation. Condemn scapegoating and exclusion. Resist the rising wave of anti-trans legislation and protect trans, feminine, BIPOC lives. Affirm our dignity in the world that uses as a cheap shot for views, clicks, and political and financial gain. Love and need you. A look. Right away when I got this comment, I was like, something is fucking off. And then for them to say, oh, I went and looked on the internet, I did all of this digging. So you could come away with digging to find this post, but not enough to check the misinformation post on a look's website. Very interesting. Very interesting. Very interesting. Okay. So again, do not spread misinformation in my chat, and I will correct you because I actually do my research and I do my best to find the facts. And I'm telling you right now, this took me less than 5 minutes. Less than 5 minutes to find this link on a look's website with a fact check of this exact misinformation that's being spread. Funny. But you know what's even more interesting? Is I do think there's something really interesting about that original post. You know what I mean? There was something actually interesting about that post that I thought was really true, that I don't think people are ready to have conversations about, nor do I think it's a safe space to talk to men about it, men specifically, especially cis men, right? Because I got this comment that said, hey, Britt, I would love to hear Brittany's opinion on the pattern of women in their teens and 20s being preyed upon by older men, yet only realizing how insidious these men are after the women have allegedly aged out of the target group. Maybe it's just a lot of anecdotal evidence, but I keep seeing this pattern both online and in my personal life. I keep observing women only being able to see the true nature of power imbalances after they're 30 plus. It feels like an endless cycle of women being chewed up and spit out by this pedophilic version of patriarchy. Well, I think what ends up happening, and I think this is the problem, is I was just reminiscing about a a story. When I was really young, I was like 12 or 13, I don't remember. And there was an older boy in the homeschooling group who was like 17, 18. I think he was 18. I think he was like a senior. And I was like, oh my God, like he kissed me. It was like I was pulling a prank on my bestie. She was like, no, he didn't. I was like, he did. He kissed me. Okay, it was like a prank. And she goes, no, he didn't. Like, you're lying. Anyways, the fact that I thought this prank was like aspirational as a little girl is normal for a young person figuring out their sexuality and who they have crushes on. And what was important is that it didn't happen. What was important is that we all knew it was a prank or that it wasn't true after. What we all recognize that this older person is not in on the story. When I was younger, my older brother had a friend who was just like the cutest boy you'd ever seen at church. I mean, this boy was so cute. I wrote his name on notebooks. I even gave myself a little tramp stamp. My bestie gave me a little tramp stamp of his name when I was like a literal teenager, like a little kid. Okay, not even middle school. And that is a normal relationship with crushing and loving boys and putting like their initials in your notebook. And in no way, shape, or form did this boy ever talk to me, or he knew I had a crush on him. My older brother knew. He never was inappropriate. He was never alone with me. Nothing ever happened because that would have been inappropriate. It was plenty appropriate for me as a child to be interested, to fantasize, to think about, to explore, to figure out. And the reason it stayed safe is because nothing happened and nobody ever came into my business. Okay? What would have been inappropriate is if, you know what I'm saying, he was like, oh, I heard you have a crush on me. Then it would have been like, uh-oh. So I think what happens is young women especially, young people especially in the patriarchy, we engage in so much fantasy building around the older person because the older person is also knowledgeable and wise and they can guide you. And you're sick of boys your age not knowing anything, right? The dilemma is when people who are older take advantage of you because they know that's exactly what you want, which is where the predatory behavior comes in. It doesn't come in on the younger people, it comes in on the older people, right? Which is why we need mentors who respect our spaces and aren't trying to sexualize us. It's why a lot of women, until they reach a certain age, have the realization of like, oh, like these men are icky. I can't tell you how many of my male friends, I've been like, are you sure you're not taking advantage of her, dude? Like, you're so much older than her. Why are you talking to her? And they're like, no, she knows. She's a grown up. You can talk to her. And I'll talk to these women. I'm like, why are you talking to him, girl? He is too old for you. And they're just like, no, like it's what I need right now. But then you realize like a lot of these women come from bad childhoods. It's not even that they're seeking daddies, though I think that's a part of it, is that they're seeking guidance. And the issue is we don't know what guidance looks like unless it involves sex. And America, specifically the US, is so sexually repressed. And yet all of our intimacy comes from sex. How about all the men that won't tell you what they're feeling unless they're fucking you? How about all the men that won't tell their family, friends, or bros what they're feeling? They'll only tell the women they're married to. We associate sex with intimacy. And though that's true, it doesn't necessarily mean that the people you're having sex with can also be people that you can only be vulnerable with, right? We can be vulnerable and open with our friends and our family and our therapists. And so I think there's a whole thing that gets played into, but even the other day, when we were watching the lesbian dating show, I was talking to my friend about this. Oh my God, like the way they look like children to us, the way we were like, oh, like these girls were so young that I couldn't even fathom or imagine thinking they were romantically or interestingly, like sexually available. Like they look like literal kids to me. And then when we switched to the dating show that was T for T, I was like, oh, okay, this is my dating group. They're 30s. They know themselves. They have adult bodies. Like this is it. The fact is there are many adults who look at those young girls in their early 20s and say, I'm interested in that. And I'm like, that's what's interesting. Why are you interested? I know why they're interested in older people. Why are you interested in them? Because I just see a child. Like I see a literal like, oh, I remember when I was 24, I think I was 24. Okay, I went to a BDSM party that I thought was 21 plus. Okay, it wasn't. It was 18 plus, which always is the basis. Like it's always minimum 18 plus. No BDSM event ever allows minors, period. Okay. And they require government IDs to get in. For some reason, I thought it was 21 plus because it was one of those rare events where people could drink alcohol, which is very rare at a BDSM event. And there was bands. People were wearing bands. Okay. I had a partner at the time. We were all open, having fun. We decided to all go home. The four people decided to go home and have like a foursome, as one does. And two of the people in the group, we thought were 21, at least. At least, because the facility already did the, okay, this is something I learned eventually. We knew them. We knew friends of them. We had all been negotiated. We all kind of, everything was good. Everybody was sober. We thought it was good. We get home with them and we're kind of getting busy. And then they go, oh yeah, we're 19. And I go, get the fuck out, get out. And they were like, wait, what? I was like, get out. I was like, no one is doing nothing to a 19-year-old here. And I was 24 at the time. And I was like, absolutely not. And I remember my partner and I were both like, oh, we're out. Absolutely not. Wait a second. We should have talked about this. We just assumed our bad, get out. And that's what I'm saying. Like, I understand things happen. Things aren't perfect. But let me just tell you, never again. That was my learning experience at 24, to absolutely double, triple check everybody's ages. Because even though they were legal enough to be there, they were not old enough. They were not old enough. Get out. Anyways, we all stayed friends. They were really wonderful people. And I really liked being friends with them for the time we were all friends. But they went on to date much older people in our groups. Like, those same people went on to date guys in their like 30s. And I was like, So it wasn't like, oh, this situation changed their mind. It was that this situation was about us and what we would do. So just, and again, it's not my job. And they knew that. They were like shocked. They were like, wait, but I'm old enough. And I was like, not old enough. No, around here, partner. Like, not around here. But they dated some of our friends, some of our mutuals. And I was like, you guys are too fucking young to be dating these people. But there you go. So again, when we have these conversations, I understand there are going to be situations in which, you think you know, it's clear cut or you've done the do, but it's really about how you see these young people. And I can't unsee that they're young. Like, once I know you're young, something happens, like click. Does that make like click? And that's what I'm interested in. So this person who wrote this comment saying, what is this pattern? I think that's what it is. I think we're having a different experience. And I also think we're healing. I think a lot of women are, they talk about men and women being on a different path. I think because we're healing so much of our life, we're also healing our attraction. My brother's gay. And I remember when he first told me when he was a young kid, his first interactions were with older men. And I got so annoyed with that, like so annoyed, even brief, even holding hands, even kissing. I was like, I'm pissed. I'm pissed that these older men are even talking to you. You're too fucking young. And the dilemma is like, these men aren't doing the work, right? But my brother even said, he's like, I can't even look at guys who are young. Like, I can't even look at them. And he was like, I don't get it. How did these older men even find me attractive? Because they're fucking perverts, bro. There's something fucking wrong with them. You know what I'm saying? And I'm not saying permanently wrong with them. I'm saying the way they were raised, the way they didn't deconstruct, patriarchy. But even talking to my brother now, he is shocked that like older men are hitting on like young guys younger than him. And I'm like, it's that kind of stuff that I think you come to the realization because you're doing the work. And I think unless you're doing the work, that's why I highlighted in that video about age gap relationships on my Bert Simon channel, that the guy said young enough to old, like what he said? He said legal enough and young enough to train, something like that. Like, they're legal, but they're young enough to train. Ooh, that is the problem. So this spread of misinformation that a look is some predator mixed in with this idea that like women are beholding patriarchy, mixed in with this whole theme we've had for 2 weeks, is the reason why I think these things we have to talk about. I have to be able to say, something's weird here. Something's wrong here. Something is off about the way this person is supposed to be, quote, fighting for little girls. You're wrong. Now, I will say, to expand on what this original person was saying about being a little girl and about being like, this is written by a person who's raised a girl. I don't know who wrote this originally on 2016, but I will say the world's not ready for this conversation. I, as a little girl, was incredibly kinky. Yeah, I was. I was horny and kinky and masturbated constantly, appropriately and within reason. That did not give an excuse to any adult to take advantage of that. It did not give any excuse to anyone. I didn't have sex till I was 22. But as a young child, yeah, I was all of those things. That's none of your fucking business. That has nothing to do with anybody. That has nothing to do with adults being able to say, well, if you're kinky, I guess. Well, if you're horny, I guess. No, that's me and my business and my body. So yes, as a little kid, I was reading books, I was finding videos, I was Googling, I was interested, I was dreaming, I was fantasizing. And I was lucky that I had a very very healthy, like a healthy relationship with it. And the world doesn't. It's like porn. When people are like, I wish I never saw porn as a kid. I am so sorry that that was your relationship with porn. I don't know why I was different, except I was incredibly well read. But I don't have that relationship with porn. I don't have a bad relationship with porn. I don't have a bad relationship with masturbation or sex. And I really think it's because I'm well read. I do. As a child, I was reading dozens and dozens of books a month. I mean, I was reading about different people around the planet in different worlds. I was watching documentaries, and I really think it saved me. So if the one thing I can tell you to help your children, it's not to keep them away from porn. I think it's to encourage them to read, to encourage them to explore. So when they do look up porn, they will have some educated perspective on the porn they are seeing, like knowing it's a fantasy, like knowing it's not real, like knowing that people are paid actors. Because if they don't know they're paid actors and they're watching porn thinking it's real life, well, that's your first problem. Because when your kid read Harry Potter for the first time, I'm assuming you told them it's not true. It's fiction. So is porn. Porn is fictional. But people watch porn. Grown-ups watch porn and literally think it's real life, that it expresses something. When men say, oh, women love ravishment stories, they want to be raped in real life. Whoa. That's like saying I love Harry Potter because I think magic is real. Pause. These are not things. These are not true. These are fantasy fictional stories. And so again, like, you know, it's so layered in everything that we do. But this is why I say my job is to figure out where people are coming from and if they're coming from a bad place. And I tell you right now, the moment I saw this comment on my channel, I was like, this is bullshit. Whatever this is bullshit. And then to sit there and not understand, they said, I don't even think, like, they're like, I'm sorry, but not even in that context, I don't think the response is okay, except the response is about something deeper and more important. That innocence is a myth created to keep people, to keep control over people, right? Like, that's the dilemma that we're having, is you're not guiding your kids. You're not giving them the talk. You're not talking to them openly about anything. And so they're left. Like, my parents will blame everything but the lack of their participation in our growing sexual interest for the reason that we went in certain directions. My parents are so lucky that I ended up so healthy, but that's why I tell them you should question your sons, because for some reason, your daughter was able to have a much healthier relationship with her sexual experiences, even though I'm so out there compared to my conservative brothers. But the reason is because I'm well read, and my brothers aren't. They're not well read. Okay? My brothers are not well read. And that I think plays a role in how they've engaged with other people, but it's an entitlement too. Like, do not get it twisted that it's an entitlement, you know? And I think that that's the problem. And plus, how can my parents start to even have the conversation about older people going after younger people when my grandma was married at 10? So there's another layer to this, right? So here we are talking about trans people, you know, going after your children in bathrooms. Okay, what about your grandpa? What about your uncles who married your aunties? Let's start having those conversations about legal child marriages that's legal in the United States right now. Let's talk about these Kentucky policies, or that have been pushed forward by these conservatives, talking about how kids should be able to get married, right? Let's talk about that. But we're not talking about that. You're so focused on gay people or trans people that you're not even having the real conversations about cis hetero people finding every which way to marry their cousins and marry children. Okay? So then I say to you, like, don't come into my chat spreading misinformation about trans and gay people because you don't want to look in your own house. At the end of the day, we're working on it in our communities. We're trying to work on it in ours. What are you doing in yours except normalizing this behavior and calling it natural? So it's natural for an older man to find a younger woman attractive, so therefore it's okay. Instead of everything is nature, we have to have a deeper relationship with our nature. Ridiculous. Ridiculous. Ridiculoso. That's a Harry Potter joke. Anyways, chat says, this is a question that I've had for a bit after joining your community, Britt. When it comes to deconstruction, most people who are already familiar with progressive values know what that means because they've done their own to an extent. How do you explain or present deconstruction of patriarchy, for example, to someone that's centrist or a misogynistic leftist? Well, I would say don't take for granted that people who are progressive. Okay, first I would say, regardless of how you identify, it depends on how much you've embodied. Right? You could go back to my content. You can go back to Chelsea Fagan. You can go back to women who use the word progressive, and you could see when it's not embodied. Okay? I've been this person. I've been this person who's like talking about men and misogyny, but I'm still dealing with my own internalized misogyny. I'm still dealing with my own pick-meism. I'm still dealing with my own, Drew Afawalo talks about this in her book, how she thought she had done the work to deconstruct, only to recognize that like she was still working on it, that we've all gone through stages. And so I think that's important, first and foremost. And then I would say explaining deconstruction or talking about these things with somebody who's a centrist or misogynistic leftist is only as good as they're willing to change. So they have to be open and they have to have the conversation. I have how do I tell this story? It seems to be that the men in my life treat me differently than my sister. My sister pointed this out. She goes, I don't know why like some of the boys treat you this way. They don't treat me this way. And it's like, oh, because you're a girl. She's like, what do you mean? I was like, you're a girl, and respectfully, you're not challenging them on everything that they are. And they know that I'm right. And they know that I'm smarter than them. So they're meaner to me because talking to me is a look in the mirror that they don't want to have to fucking do. And she was like, I guess that's true. Like I guess you are older too. That's important. And two, like when they tell me stuff, I have a facial expression that goes, so when they're misogynistic and I go, they're ready for, you can call it judgment, but they're also ready to be corrected because they know that I don't respect their positioning and they don't care. They're upset that I don't care about theirs. They don't respect my positions, but they don't understand that I don't care, but they care what I think. And I'm saying you care what I think because you also know I'm right. Right? So when I'm having conversations with my brothers and I know that they're not going to have the conversation, and listen to me when I say I don't pull my punches. I do not pull my punches. And so, but I say it with as much kindness and love as I can. But because I don't pull my punches, especially now, it means that they have to contend with the reality that they desire my respect. They desire my approval. They're frustrated that they don't have it, but they also can't do anything about it because they can't look in the mirror yet to actually get it. Right? And so the dilemma follows that they treat me differently because they know I'm right. I think men on the internet also struggle with this. I think they know I'm right. And I bet if I had to have the discussion with them now in 2026, it would be obvious that I was right. Because they could not contend with any of the points that I have made. Just like with the Graham Plattner thing, you can say what you want about this man, but he admitted himself he cheated on his wife with 6 different people, right? So everything else that you have to say about him is absolutely moot to me. I do not care. I do not care about anything else because this should be the only thing that matters. But since you guys are downplaying it, oh, what does this matter? Who cares? These other women are lying. Okay, so all these other women are lying about Graham Plattner, but what about Graham Plattner? What about what he admitted out of his own goddamn mouth? Does it matter? No, that doesn't matter because we're fighting fascism. What is fascism? What is the fear? Under fascism, what is the fear women have to contend with? Men who are entitled to their bodies. Men who don't care about their mental health or their relationships, right? Men who seriously feel as at a position of power that they can make all the fuck ups, they can do all these things to their wives, but the wives have no recourse. Okay, so now what? This is why I said earlier, one of the things I will give Dave Ramsey's crew credit for is they tell these women to leave their husbands. Because I grew up in a conservative bubble where like, you cannot talk about divorce this way. So the fact that these Christians are up on this finance show, and every time a woman gets up here and says, my man cheated on me, he financially stole from me, they go, so are you making plans to leave? Okay, here's how we leave. Every time these women show up, the first suggestion is leave this man. And that is a big fucking deal. I don't think you could understand what big deal that is until you grow up in a bubble that never allows you to talk about divorce. It's a big deal. It's a big deal. Okay, so moving forward, what I would like to do that I think would be kind of interesting is that I know I've been doing it lately where I've been really poking at the cisheads, and I'm going to do it tomorrow too, girl. Don't get it twisted. But I want them to know that I really am right. And I'm not speaking from a place of ego or narcissism. I'm just literally correct. And because I am correct, I will say it again and again and again. Only a group of men coming together in the name of protecting their town could burn it to the ground and call it protection. We'll cover that tomorrow. Only a group of men, specifically white men, could literally tell women and children to stay inside to protect themselves from themselves. And then say, we're doing this for you. We're burning our city to the ground for you. Because we're racist. Because we're literally racist. Okay, thanks. How about not? You know? How about no? Okay. Discourse that I see that makes sense. So unless someone is willing enough to recognize their own shortcomings, saying deconstruct isn't really effective. It's presenting your personal and body deconstruction in the things you say. Yeah, like realistically, no one's going to do shit unless they're ready. And it's such a personal experience. But that's why I told you I'm not married to the outcome. It's why my life completely changed when I realized, like, oh, you can't get people to change or do anything. You cannot make people change. People first need to want, that's why therapy won't work unless you're ready to change, like embodied, ready to change. You know what I mean? Like, it's not going to work. It's not actually going to do anything. That's why a lot of people, I think, do go to therapy for a long time and nothing ever happens. I know for myself, I went to my first 6 sessions of therapy and I knew I wasn't ready. I wasn't ready, you know, and then I went to my second therapist and I was ready that time. And it was a very different experience. I was ready. You know, I was like, okay, like, I don't know what this is. I was kind of like, I think being with somebody you trust is very important. I didn't trust my first therapist, which was a problem. But my second therapist, not only was I ready, but I trusted her. But I think with my brothers, they can't trust that I know what I'm talking about because the way that I live my life is so contradictory to the way that they live theirs. It's like, no way can Brittany be correct. Like, no way can Brittany be right. And I think I see this on YouTube with a lot of the boys on YouTube. They're like, no way can Brittany be right because they don't want my life. They don't want it. They don't want a life of peace and health. They don't want a life where it's not money focused or success focused. They don't want a life where I don't spend time getting into beef with YouTubers. They want a life where, you know, it looks different. They want maybe a more conservative life, my brothers, or they want a more like, you know, Catholic oriented life, or they want to, you know, whatever life. They don't want my life. So when they look at it, they go, no, like, this can't be the answer. Even with philosophy, like I've had my brothers say to me like, oh, I like, you know, I've tried to like deconstruct patriarchy or not patriarchy, sorry, religion. But every time I think about life without God, I just think, nah, that's hopeless and meaningless. And I don't get how you can have meaning without God. I was like, well, my life doesn't have God and I have a very meaningful life. And they're like, yeah, I just don't believe you. And I'm like, fair. You've been raised your whole life thinking God is meaning. And now you have somebody without God telling you it's meaningful. And by the way, there are a lot of atheists who do not have a meaningful life. So I'm not only making the argument that I, the one atheist, have a meaningful life, but that I, your sister, who's also naked on the internet and posting all this, you know, anti-patriarchy content, is sitting here and blah, blah, blah. This girl is also the happiest because there's layers to this. Not only can I not be happy because I'm ranting and raving about patriarchy, but I also can't be happy because I'm naked on the internet. I also can't be happy because I'm the breadwinner. I also can't be happy because of this and this and this. Oh, you don't have kids? You can't possibly be happy. Oh, you don't have God? You don't have this? You don't have this? There's too many things about my life that are so radically different from the tradition of most people's lives that they can't even begin to fathom that I'm happy. How could you be happy without any of the things that make my life happy is basically the argument. Except the one thing that makes us all happy is community, consistency, and structure. And I have those things. You know? And so again, it's like, right? Chad says the Nazi tattoo was enough for Plattner. I look at leftists defending him, it and his Blackwater ties, and by the time we get to the cheated over wives, I have to ask, is this really the icon you all want for the leftists? I mean, hello? I mean, what am I supposed to, you know, what am I supposed to do there? Really? Like, what am I supposed to do with this guy? You know, isn't this guy everything that is, like, wrong? But people are, like, trying to paint him as this great, like, he's changed, he's done stuff, he's different, you know, he's whatever. And it's like, is he though? And I get people are desperate. I know that. That's what I'm saying. Don't do anything because you're desperate or fearful. And a lot of voters for Plattner, they're desperate. They just don't know what else to do. Like, what else are they supposed to do if this is their only option? And I think that's a part of the problem. Like, don't you think it's interesting that you keep getting these people as the solution? Hello? Hold on. Let me see if I can show you this. These are Plattner voters. Maine voters, I should say.
To decide. I got until Tuesday to decide, but I'm pretty sure I'll vote for him. I don't think a lot of this crap is anybody else's business.
I'm going to vote for him, yeah, but I don't like it. I'm not in favor of all that stuff.
We are just days away from primary day in the great state of Maine, and Democrats, their stomachs are churning over scandal regarding Democratic Senate candidate Graham Plattner, the latest of which being allegations of unsettling and in at least one case physically threatening behavior towards former girlfriends, published by the New York Times. Now, in a statement to CNN, Plattner disputes claims of physical intimidation and said the most serious allegations are false and politically motivated. He also denied reporting he was aware a tattoo he had was a Nazi symbol before last year. This latest story came out saying that he did know about the Nazi tattoo. He did hurt someone.
He's an intelligent man. Of course he knew about it. I don't blame him for denying it.
And he's made some stupid comments. But also, we haven't been through, at least I know I haven't been through the kind of stuff he went through. And you don't know how much PTSD dealing with that, so probably give him a break.
But Democrats here in the state tell me they're still grappling with the reality that Plattner may be their best chance to try and unseat Republican Senator Susan Collins.
It's troublesome, and some of these things that he's been quoted as saying, disheartening, for sure. But what else? What else do we have?
You know, I'm not really interested in the guy's foibles. You know, I'm interested in his vision and what he has to say. And I love what he has to say.
No, the truth is the Nazi tattoo should have been enough. It should have been enough. It should have been a non-starter. So I have not been Team Plattner from day one.
Am I real comfortable? I wish all of this had been beforehand, but I think he's probably a pretty good fit.
Unfortunately, we're going to lose this race again, and we're going to have 6 more years of Susan Collins, who has let down the people of Maine time after time.
Time after time. You know what I mean? Like, they should be so upset with the Democrats for giving them Plattner. They should be so fucking not for saying that we shouldn't be upset about Plattner. Because even though, like, again, you can be upset about Plattner and vote for Plattner, but they're not even letting you be upset, because then they're accusing you of like moving votes aside or convincing people not to vote for him. People in my comments were like, I can't believe you're telling people not to vote for Plattner. I don't think I ever said that. I don't tell people who to vote for. I don't think I've ever said don't vote for Graham Plattner. I just said, I don't know why you're expecting people to vote for Graham Plattner. Okay. But you know what I'm saying? I understand being in a position where you feel like there's no other choice. Okay. And then there were people in the comments saying, if you're anti-voting for Graham Plattner, but you voted for Kamala Harris, like you know where to stand. Okay. Again, this is 2026. Yes. I feel like people don't understand time has gone by, and that if it was wrong then it certainly is wrong now. And also, again, did you see, oh, wait, hold on. Let me see if my video is up yet. Let me see if my video got approved. Hold on. I got an email. Is it from YouTube? No. Well, it is from YouTube, but it's not the one I wanted. Let me see. Did my video get approved? Come on. No. Okay. YouTube gods hate me. I'll show you. I'll give you a sneak peek. There was, hold on. Ooh, let me bring it up. In May or April.
What's your favorite?
Hold on. Excuse me. Stop. Let me show you.
My blind spot?
Hold on, sir. So, this is a video that I feature in my latest video that I'm putting up on why you should start an OnlyFans, probably. And what I'm trying to point out is there's a difference between someone doing something in the past and someone, okay, if you did something in the past, but you don't do it in the present, then the pattern stops. If you did something in the past and you're still doing it in the present, that means the pattern continues. Yes? There's a difference of criticism here. Saying you, like, what are you doing? Graham Plattner is doing stuff now. Now. The Nazi tattoo was recent. The affair was recent. Okay? The way he speaks is recent. Hassan Piker. His pattern was in the past. His misogynistic past came, but it still exists now. And what's worse is he's very aware of it. And because he's very aware of it, now he's even more accountable. But like I say, self-awareness isn't enough. You have to have self-awareness plus introspection plus extrospection. BoJack Horseman, which I've reviewed the whole series for members, tier 2. Okay, BoJack Horseman is incredibly self-aware. What good is that? What good is it? So this is The Guardian in May 22nd. Okay, so this is recent. This is recent. This video just happened. What do you guys think about it?
My blind spots, I'm a little bit too much of a dude bro. So sometimes I'll pop off and I'll say something like, can I curse on this show?
Yeah, sure.
Sometimes I'll say like, suck my and people don't really like that. You know what I mean? Especially if it's towards, again, a reactionary, but a reactionary woman nonetheless, right? That can come across as misogynistic. And I think there is a degree of that for sure.
I don't want to breeze past the misogyny question because I don't want people to feel like, we just said that as an aside and moved on, because that's a big deal. There has been some, like I read I think, thoughtful discussion in Reddit from a woman who is a big fan of yours, but was saying, they get frustrated with feeling like they're outside. They're on the outside of the conversation, and that there's some particular things like, the way you talked about sexual assault, that they feel like is too dismissive. And I just wonder, do you take that feedback on?
Yeah, no, absolutely. That might be like one particular instance where I'm like offering commentary on an issue, but I try to be as careful and as thoughtful as possible, especially when it comes to things like that. But once again, like in that situation, my job is to talk to men that are so far beyond like where I'm at on these sorts of issues, right? Like my goal is to communicate to young men in a way that they understand, to just like pull them away from being not just dismissive necessarily, but just like reluctant to hear the other side's opinion.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, okay, now listen to this. So you know how sometimes I've been trying to get rid of your mom jokes because it is a misogynistic joke, and I've been trying to eradicate it from my vocabulary in general. Like going after someone's mom is misogynistic. It's an inherent discredit to mother's labor. Okay, I was listening to a vegan show yesterday. It's a vegan call-in show, and I had to get off. I had to like leave the show. I just stopped listening because the guys, it's a girl and a couple of guys, and they educate people on veganism. And the caller was being a troll. So they were trolling him back with your mom jokes, but it wasn't just your mom, like cute. It was like your mom. It was like your mom cute, which I tried to do. And even then I want to eradicate it from my vocabulary. It was like detailed, like your mom, like my dick was inside your mom. And I was like, oh, don't talk about my mom that way. Don't talk about anyone's mom that way. It was like too far. And I was like, yo, just say your mom saw me last night. Just say your mom fed me last night. You don't have to be like, and even then, no more your mom jokes. This is why you can't even say your mom jokes, because it literally all comes back to misogyny. It all comes down to the sexualization of your mom. And I was like, oh, I just stopped listening. It pissed me off so bad. And this is what I'm saying, like, it all comes down to weaponizing women's bodies as a point of leverage against your opponent. It was so gross. I was like, ugh, I'm over it. I'm over it. No, Chet said, what about your dad? Not even your dad, bro. Nobody. Chet said, why is Hassan now wearing a freaking suit? It's a whole thing. I'm weirded out. Brittany, I think you're correct. In 5 years, he's going to declare himself a central dem. Oh, yeah, for sure, bro. Oh, yeah. This guy, like, you know what I'm saying? Absolutely. Absolutely. Guaranteed. I've been saying, like, again, every single one of us could be susceptible to being a more conservative. I mean, literally watch Chelsea Fagan's latest video and look at it happen in real time to a woman. And it's because I swear it's who she's surrounding herself with. Like, she's surrounding herself with people. I'm telling you, like, who you surround yourself with. So Hassan is saying, because I have to talk to these really shitty men, I have to speak their language, but their language is racist and homophobic and evil. Like, do you know what I'm saying? Like, in one side of his mouth, Hassan is like, oh, we shouldn't say slurs. And on the other side, anytime on the left, someone says a slur, he's like, it's not that deep. It's not that deep. Someone cheated on their wife. It's not that deep. Nobody cares about this. Oh, somebody said that. Oh, it doesn't matter. And it's like, yeah, see, this whole thing is exhausting. This whole thing is exhausting, okay? And I do think it ultimately plays into a lot of like these patriarchal expectations of I'm the man, I'm a dude bro, I'm tough. And this is why a lot of women who find Hasan attractive, guys, we all agree he's physically attractive. Can we please move away from that? Are you literally attracted to this man? Girlies, you have not descentered patriarchy or men. If you find Hasan Piker, who he is as a person, attractive, oh, you are in the weeds of patriarchy, girls. You are in the weeds of it. Physically, it's one thing. Put that aside, you allosexuals. I hear you. Put his physicality to the side. His personality, what he stands for, his beliefs. Girlies, you are in the weeds of patriarchy. He's telling you literally with his, you are in the weeds. That's what I'm saying, okay? Chet said, I'm glad the interviewer brought up his subreddit. I know, I'm so happy. I know Hasan doesn't oversee it, but any concerned viewer with constructive criticism gets stockpiled. Chet said, just for understanding purposes, know your mom jokes, period, even within context. Say siblings, saying it to each other, but yes, reclaiming stirs amongst friends and family. No, I'm okay. Hold on. You must be able to discern as an adult the social situation you're in. Read the fucking room. Are you at work? Are you talking to a coworker? Are you in a position of power? Are you with your siblings? Read the room. You know, like what social situation am I in? Who is listening to me? Who is having this conversation with me? Who, you know what I'm saying? Who will I hurt? Whose feelings matter in this moment? You know, if I say something and no one's there to see it, does it matter? I don't know. Does it hurt you? Right? So like, again, I love the clarification question, but it's not like, it's not, okay, words are a construct we create to communicate. So when you're communicating, use the words that best communicate, even though you can't perfectly communicate to all people listening, use the right words to communicate to the people you're communicating to. Right? But like, yeah, I don't care if people make your mom jokes. Like I make your mom jokes to my partner all the time, like every day. Every day. I'm like, your mom, like literally every day. And I'm not ashamed about it. And you're not going to come for me. I never said I was perfectly mature. And they're meaningless because we've done the work. We've talked about it. Your mom is a nebulous concept. It's never about his actual mother, right? The dilemma is like, I don't want to say that necessarily at work or in general, or I might even say it in front of his mom. I might be like, your mom, and then his mom might be like, my mother. And then there might be a joke there, right? I'm saying the relationships we have with people are dependent. They're context dependent. Okay, they have to be. Every relationship we have ever is context dependent. That every single rule we create is context dependent. There's no such thing as objective morality. Every single decision we make has to be context dependent. Every single one. Okay. Chet says, how do you stop being attracted to men like this? I think a big part of it is to learn to separate physical attraction from personhood. I think a lot of us, like I'm allosexual, I'm physically attracted to everybody. Like there is no type of person that I would not fuck. Period. The end. There is no type of body, no type of anything that I would not find attractive in the right context. I'm allosexual. Period. Okay? The thing that stops me from being attracted to people though is their brains, their opinions, like their politics, their beliefs. Like, so for Hasan Piker, like we need to separate these things. We can all see he's physically attractive. Great. What does that have to do with whether or not he's a good person, whether or not he's a safe person, whether or not he's a moral, you know what I mean? So like, this is the questions that you have to ask yourself, if that makes sense. So it's not about, it's about also it's about asking yourself, what is my relationship with attraction? This is like when you have to deconstruct your attraction to vampires. Like, look, we love a vampire lore in a story, but why the fuck am I attracted to like toxic boys in real life? Oh my God, because I'm healing. So then you deconstruct your healing and your pain and say, what drives me into the arms of these men who play with me every day? Right? So like, it's all about deconstructing your childhood, unlearning expectations of relationships and what they should look like, and doing all the work necessary to be more at peace and healthier, you know, kinder, more loving. I get comments every day on my Tyler Catastrophe video saying, I shouldn't have to read the room for these people who force me to be normal based off their standards. Jesus Christ, I'm asking you to read the room. Like if a group of men come up on a girl, like maybe go on the other side of the sidewalk. Jesus Christ, that's all I'm saying. Read the room. Like read the room doesn't just mean like things your oppressors have used against you. You know what I mean? Like tone policing isn't just about, you know, this like the FD signifier thing. You know, we're not tone policing you because we're saying stop weaponizing a genocide for your own political takes. Okay? I'm not controlling you by saying consider the way that it feels or looks. Okay, I'm not trying to control you by saying don't comment on a black man's hair. It's unnecessary, and you're giving into white supremacy. You know what I mean? We're not trying to control you. Ooh, which by the way, if you're a Discord member, you know Bad Empanetta left a comment on my channel, and I screenshotted it, and then I blocked him. I don't want to talk to these stupid men. Blocked. Oh, I can't wait. Every single stupid man who comes in my chat, just know I'm going to block you. I'm going to screenshot it first, of course. And then I'm going to block you. This man trying to leave a fucking comment on my videos, girl. Get out of my channel. He tried, though. Bad Empanetta tried. Leave. Get out of here. Yalla habibi. Go. Come on, bro. Get out of my comment sections. That's what I'm saying. I hope these men leave me the fuck alone because I don't actually want to talk to them. I want to talk about them. I don't want to talk to them. Do you see? I want to talk about you. I don't want to talk to you. Thank you. All right. Let's talk about how patriarchy is killing everybody. Using this horrible story I wanted to highlight when it first happened, but we just haven't gone around to it. So let's do it today, girls. Ready? Trigger warning. There are activists who came from the flotilla who Israel detained, and they were physically beaten and bruised. And one woman shares her story in particular, but let's watch some news stories before we get into her interview, yeah? I believe this is the woman whose story we're going to see highlighted, if I'm not mistaken.
I was dragged into a darkened container ship on a prison boat. I was sexually assaulted. I was beaten. And that was just the beginning of 4 days of absolute hell. I've looked into the eyes of the most soulless people in the universe, and nothing came back. These people need to be stopped. The serial killing, genocidal regime, the Zionist regime of Israel needs to absolutely be dismantled. And Albo, where are you when we need you? You need to cut all ties with Israel. You need to get out of bed with Israel. You need to sanction them, and you need to stop this genocide. You've got to do it now.
I have a fractured rib and bruises and cuts all over my body, but by far the worst thing was being there the whole time and seeing and listening to my friends be punched and kicked and tasered and shot with beanbag bullets and have stun grenades thrown at them for 2 days on a prison ship and then for another day and a half in occupied Palestine.
We were filmed by locals who were laughing at our abuse and laughing at our pain. When we were funneled onto the steps of the airplane, I actually fell. And when it happened when I fell was 3 grown men began to stomp on my wrists and my stomach and my face as they laughed and they threw slurs at us. I want you to think, when you listen to my story, think not of our pain, but of those of the Palestinians. For decades and for generations, they've been shouldering the brunt of their resilience and their perseverance alone.
We are all Palestinians! We are all Palestinians! Free, free Palestine! Free, free
I can't think of how many times I was like punched and kicked in the face, in the ribs, in the body. I have a fractured cheekbone and a fractured rib and a pulmonary contusion in my lung, concussion. Overwhelmingly, as has been communicated, overwhelmingly the worst feeling is to be in a stress position or in a position where you have no power, you're trapped, and to hear people that you love being tortured and being raped around you in the same space and have no power to do anything about it.
Okay, so as we move through these videos, just a reminder, this is not unique to Israel. This is unique to, or specific to patriarchy, entitlement, white supremacy. This is not unique to Israel. Do not get it twisted that Zionism is unique or interesting. It is just another example of power, unregulated, men coming together to control people's bodies, rape being used as a tool of power and control. So again, as we watch these videos, to me, when I watch them, I don't really think like, oh man, Israel sucks. I think, man, there we go again. Structures of power, right? A country committing a genocide. Yes, Israel is the name of the power that we're against, but Israel is not unique in this. This is not unique to Israel.
Israel has released hundreds of activists aboard a flotilla that attempted to break its naval blockade of Gaza. The Israeli Foreign Ministry says all foreigners were deported on Thursday following their release. The Gaza-bound flotilla, with more than 50 boats, left Turkey last week to highlight the humanitarian crisis in Gaza. It was intercepted near Cyprus on Monday, followed by global condemnation of Israel's mistreatment of the activists, which included several Canadians. On Wednesday, a far-right Israeli minister posted a video showing him mocking
This imagery is one that really gets me.
several Canadians. On Wednesday,
This imagery of people handcuffed and laid on the ground. We saw them do this to Palestinian civilians. We've seen Trump administration kidnap people off the streets and put them in prisons where they treat men this way. And that's why I say, like, look at the way, like, men are not the ones rallying. And when men rally, they burn down their own cities, okay? So I'm saying to you, be angry for the world, not at the world. But look at the way these men treat other men and tell me, where are the men fighting tooth and nail to protect these men? Where are the men's organizations? Where are the men who care? They can't, because they know that if they're in a position of power, they're going to have to do the same to keep that power. This is why patriarchy is a problem. Patriarchy with the intersection of white supremacy and capitalism, of course, because again, all of these men want to be in that position of power because they think that's the only way to survive this. And that if we should all rally together against the treatment of people like this, okay? When they took Bashar al-Assad, when they went into the prisons, I watched videos of men say they were raped with hot rods, metal rods put into their anuses. Men doing this to other men because of power and entitlement. Okay, men kept in the dark for 30 plus years. This is why I say to you, like, this is men doing it to other men because this is how they've been trained to feel powerful. And I'm saying these were once little boys, once little children, now doing this to grown-ups, to each other, to other people. And this is why I say, like, we need to come together and really recognize, like, the reason I say men as a system is because even, quote, normal, regular men will uphold these positions or these power structures because they don't want to. I mean, look at the men in the U.S. claiming feminism is ruining the nuclear family. Look at the men in the U.S. literally talking about how women are the problem. I saw a TikTok from my Discord today that said, this woman said, take note, this black woman, of course, said, take note that women fought tooth and nail to get the right to work. Men have not fought to be caretakers. Men en masse are not fighting to be fathers. They are not fighting to change diapers. They are not fighting to stay at home. They are fighting women who want to go to work. So remember this, that men themselves want to have children with you. They want you to put your body through labor. They want you to risk dying through labor, but they are not fighting together. We don't see hordes of thousands of men coming together to fight for parenthood. People who fought for paternity leave and all that, traditionally women. So again, when we have these conversations, remember that, because this is important. Until men as a collective are coming together to fight patriarchy, they are upholding it in a way that only benefits them and always comes at the expense of femme or women people, right? Chat said, aren't there literal infants in ICE facilities right now? Not only are there literally, absolutely. Wait, I have a TikTok about this. Hold on. Let me see if I can pull it up really quickly. There are children. The suicide rates are incredible. They're so high right now in facilities, guys. I mean, it's insane. Hold on. I do have a video. Hold on. Here, look, first, here's this one. Miss Rachel is at Delaney right now.
From here, and you sing from there.
She's hanging out with children and families of detainees.
Down the walls everywhere, with love in our hearts rising up like the sea. Together.
Okay, so she's with people. She's at Delaney. The children at Delaney Hall Immigration Detention Center could not be sweeter. Their hearts are broken. They want their parents to come home again. Right? Like, they're not the ones in the facility, but parents and kids have absolutely been taken to the facilities. And so we have to remember, like, these people don't care about women and children. They don't care. Okay? They say, oh, like, it's like goes back to that whole thing, like, if men aren't around to protect the women, what will you guys do? And it's like, protect us from who? Like, protect us from which one? Who?
Far-right Israeli minister posted a video showing him mocking the detained civilians. That led the Canadian government to summon Israel's ambassador to voice his concerns.
This barbaric, cruel regime must be disbanded. The United States and Germany are funding it 100% with the backing of England, France, and all the Western...
Look at this woman. She just said something.
States and Germany
look at the way they treat her.
100% with the backing of
Look, she's yelling.
England,
Free Palestine. Boom.
France, and all the Western governments who are a white menace spreading pestilence and violence wherever they go.
Well, we've experienced a really dystopic kind of version of Israel here that you hear and read about in the news, but to actually experience it firsthand is a very different thing altogether. Like, we've been beaten, tortured, systematically, dehumanized, and we've just had a little taste of what the Palestinians go through every day, some for years in detention.
From when we were intercepted, we were met with such levels of violence. Our boats were shot at. And from the moment that we entered the prison ship to touching down in occupied Palestine, we were violated in all different manner of ways. And the fact that Israel would do that to us, with the world on us, I can only imagine what they do to Palestinian prisoners.
We were taken to a prison boat. 3 of them, I'm pretty sure.
Hold on. OBS. Don't do this. Okay, it's back.
There was at least 12 sexual assaults that took place. People were tased.
Oh my God, 12 sexual assaults?
To us, with the world on us, I can only imagine what they do to Palestinian prisoners.
We were taken to a prison boat. 3 of them, I'm pretty sure. In one of the prison boats, 35 people suffered fractures to their ribs. People said there was at least 12 sexual assaults that took place. People were tased. Me personally, I was kept in cuffs where I can't feel my hands anymore. I was kicked in the ribs multiple times.
They treated like we are under the animal. We have lots of things reason to hate them. Really, we spent 5 days with them, and we have lots of reason to hate them.
Look at this!
Posto del terrore.
A place of terror, basically a square of containers where they kept people inside with bread and water.
In cui era praticamente un quadrato
Italian
di
journalists.
container in cui questi tenevano la gente nei container, pane e acqua, anche poca acqua fino
Though not much water at first, according to those who have been there for a day,
a un certo
told
punto,
me.
per quello che mi hanno detto quelli che ci stavano da un giorno, noi era una delle ultime
We were one of the last boats they took, so when we arrived, there were people who had been there for a while.
che hanno preso, quindi c'era gente quando siamo arrivati che stava lì da un pezzo, cioè dal giorno prima.
Is my voice still here? Sound cut out? If the sound's cut out, reset your stream. Reset stream might help. Yeah, I think the audio is gone. Reset your streams. Reset your streams. I should be here still. That said, I'm here. Okay. Reset your streams.
Come entravi nel
Since the day before, as soon as you entered the reception container, they beat you up.
container d'ingresso ti gonfiavano, ma ti gonfiavano proprio. Ti gonfiavano vuol dire che a me mi hanno preso a calci.
Now listen, they really beat you up. Beat you up means they kicked me in the legs and punched me in the face. Now chat says, why are men so violent? Men are literally violent because they've been trained to be since they were children. Before they are even brought into the world, their parents set them up to be violent. Our parents are raising us to be violent. All of our parents are complicit. Okay? It is going to be very rare in the world for your parents to be the unique exception in this rule. So if you are the exception, shut your fucking mouth, because the world is way too fucking violent for all your parents to be the exception. Mine certainly were not the exception. Okay? So again, our parents are raising us to be violent. If you guys keep as the exceptions advocating for yourself, you're going to take away the attention from the fact that we have problems, because everyone thinks they're the exception. Oh, my dad's not a misogynist. My parents aren't violent. My parents aren't bigoted. Yes, they are. Yes, they are. Okay? With peace and love, yes, protect your family, but also, yes, they are. Okay? So why are men so violent? Yes, we're all having a biological experience, but even more than that, that's why I say have a deeper relationship with your biological experience. We are having a socialized experience that is training us from childhood to be violent, training us from childhood to see our identity as related to how many things we can kill, how many trophies we can put on our wall, how many bodies we get, how much we can protect people. Okay? That's the point. Am I being silenced? People are having troubles with the stream. This plays into, listen to Hila Klein recently going to Israel for an amazing trip in Israel. Did you see this? Hila Klein going to Israel and posting videos of her at the beach. Well, there's literally this happening and a genocide happening. And then Hila and Ethan not understanding why people think they're pro the genocide. Hello? What do you mean you vacationed in Israel and we're bragging about what a great experience it was right now with everything happening? What are you trying to say? What are you trying to do here, Hila? Do you know what I'm saying? This is a form of violence. This is a weird, like, you don't even see the connection, but this is a stance of violence. This is Hila Klein saying none of this matters to her, that she sees it as good and allowed. That's what the image sends. Even if she doesn't intend for it, that is what she is saying with her brand. That's what the image is saying. It's saying, I love Israel. Look how great Israel is. I'm going to ignore everything they're doing to people. That's what I'm trying. That is a form of violence, right? Now, again, why are men so violent? They've literally been socialized to be violent for thousands of years. Like, I'm not even exaggerating how this is why we have to have a deeper relationship with our biological experience.
Sulle gambe, a cazzotti in faccia, gente che lo sa fare, per cui non è che
These are people you know what they are doing, so I don't have any major visible marks.
grandi segni visibili, però se non
What did they say to you, the journalist said?
Welcome to Israel.
Welcome to Israel is what they said. They beat you up and told you welcome to Israel.
Questo hanno detto. Ti pestavano e ti dicevano welcome to Israel. C'era addirittura una panic
There was even a panic room they took us into. They handed us our shoes.
Nella quale venivamo introdotti, ci davano le scarpe in mano per essere anche, cioè che non ci potevamo neanche difendere.
And we couldn't even defend ourselves. We didn't know what we didn't know we were going into this container.
Non sapevamo che entravamo in questo container e c'erano 3 persone che dicendo
And there were 3 people there who were saying welcome to Israel.
ci picchiamo, 3 energumeni che ci picchiavano selvaggiamente.
And we're actually 3 thugs who beat us savagely.
Io ho preso un pugno nell'occhio, a un certo punto
I was punched in the eye. At one point, it felt as though I couldn't see anymore, and I was kicked all over.
che non vedessi più, ho preso dei calci ovunque e ci hanno chiamato.
And they called us, pointing their machine guns at us. We had our hands up, and they told us to move
Quando
forward.
erano con i mitra spianati contro di noi stavamo con le mani alzate, ci hanno chiesto di avanzare, dopodiché erano tutti quanti fuori
After that, we were all out of the containers, and they told us to move forward with our hands up.
ci hanno chiesto di avanzare con le mani in alto e poi ci hanno chiesto di girarci.
Then they told us to turn around. They were perhaps the longest seconds of my life.
E quelli sono stati forse i secondi più lunghi della mia vita. Dopodiché ci hanno preso per il collo e ci hanno
After that, they grabbed us by the neck and separated us.
a quel punto, da quel momento in poi non so più niente dei miei compagni.
And from that point on, I haven't heard a thing about my traveling companions.
Don't shoot!
Fuck. Absolutely insane. Just devastating. Chet said on the podcast, Hila said people in Israel thanked her for their commentaries on Israel-Palestine, which is not a good look. Absolutely not a good look, right? Chet said, yeah, but why even thousands of years ago, philosophically? Maybe because of securing and exploiting resources? Well, first, we're animals on a planet, right? So I don't know that this is somebody who's more educated than me to come in, but I'm going to assume from my limited understanding, there was a point where our smaller cultural bubbles weren't working because we expanded our population, bring more advancements in technology to help cater to the village. And then it ended up creating people who thought they were, better leaders, or industrialization came in, or, there ended up being a fight for land and property. That's just a part of our human condition. Like, that is a part of being an animal, right? And I'm saying, in order for us to feel safe with each other, it's about deconstructing a lot of our biological experiences, and also understanding that when I say biological experience, I'm not talking about what Republicans think of as a biological experience. Because remember, when conservatives talk about biological experiences, they don't think being gay is a biological experience. It's all a biological experience. That's why I say we have to have a deeper relationship with it, right? So all you need is, if you had 1,000 people, all you need is 5 of those people to feel entitled to your land, and those 5 people can convince those other 1,000 people to back them. I mean, that's what's happening right now, right? You just need a small group of people convincing the other group of people to back them and give them power, and then boom, and then you'll fight for them, you'll kill for them, you'll rape for them. Right? They also enslaved people. They stole people. They kidnapped people. It's amazing what you'll do when you have a gun in front of your face. And that's, you know what I mean? Like, we're talking about an animal species that doesn't acknowledge it's an animal species. I mean, human beings literally think they aren't animals, right? So we have to understand. That's why I say I am not holding my breath for humanity to figure it out. They don't even know they're animals. Billions of people on the planet think God specially made them and put them here. I need you to process that information. Billions of people think there is a God who specially made them one by one and put them on earth. What am I supposed to do with that? And they think it's, you know what I'm saying? So again, with peace and love, regardless if you're an atheist, right, like the creators of Zionism, or you're religious, like these billions of people who belong to these religions, ultimately, I'd like to believe that there is a way for some of us to still do the right thing, even though. But I do think the world is a reflection of us as a whole. And I think most people, including myself, at some time or another, have contributed to the harm in the universe and will continue to do so. Right? So again, when we have these conversations like, why are men this way? It's why are human beings this way? Then it's why are groups of people this way? And then the question is like, what is also propaganda and what is real? What is the propaganda of my feeling about a group of people? Like the way people are made to feel about immigrants? And what is the reality of immigrants in life? Because right now, immigrants get the short end of the stick in terms of publicity, while men get the right one. Why are you talking about Israel when you should be talking about men? Why are you talking about, Hamas when you really should be talking about men? Why are you talking about the United States when you should really be talking about men? Why are you talking about anything when you should be talking about men? Because men are never going to allow themselves to be a part of the story, unless they're the winners. They will never allow themselves to be held accountable as the group that they are. So right now, we'll talk about it tomorrow, a group of white men are literally setting their own town on fire because of the action of one Sudanese man. Because what one Sudanese man did, a bunch of white men are burning their own town down in the name of anti-immigration. Hello? Hello? What is this? We'll talk about it tomorrow. I don't have the spoons to cover it today. Okay, we're going to listen to this woman's story, Juliette Lamont, okay? Let's take a short break and we'll come back and we'll watch this. It's about 40 minutes, so it's a long one, but I think it's necessary we listen to her story. She took the time to tell us about it. She says she was assaulted and beaten by Israel, and I think we should hear her story, especially since a lot of people aren't talking about it. All right, I'll be right back. All right. Pausing 1, 2, 3. Okay. I also want to say, because chat said I wonder what a matriarchy would look like or would be like. I just want to say, like, it doesn't really matter. Okay. So we're not going to get ABLM people to change their mind tomorrow, right? So it's never going to happen. But even if there was a matriarchy, it could also turn into a patriarchy again. Because dismantling systems is a temporary attempt for longevity. But systems can maintain as long as the people keep it up. So as long as people maintain patriarchy, it stays. But again, it's us as a collective. Like, I love that we're talking about collective consciousness. Like, oh my God, if we all just come together. But then any attempts to encourage individuals to hold themselves accountable is like, oh, one person's not going to change the world. I know, but if one person is multiplied by 8 billion, well, now it's not just one person. Right? Which is the argument they've been using. I love how collective consciousness, like, I love how I've been lectured in my comments, like, Brittany, individual men deconstructing patriarchy is not going to take away patriarchy, but every individual Democratic voter in Maine has to vote for Graham Plattner because if one person deviates from the plan, now fascism wins. Okay, so which is it? If we work together in a direction, does it work or not? So you agree. You know what I mean? Like, there's just like this idea that's so funny to me. Yeah, patriarchy is a mindset, not a gender. Well, same with matriarchy. Like, matriarchy is it's a philosophical framework more than anything, right? But anyone could do that version of matriarchy that says, not the Googleable version of matriarchy, not the one that says women are at the forefront. The type of matriarchy that says we care about children and life first, right? Okay, so again, I don't think gender should matter. I don't think the way your body looks should matter. I think the philosophy of your culture should be the forefront, which is like being kind to each other, being nice to each other. I mean, look, at the end of the day, we also have to contend with the reality that we live in a world where, like, we don't have to like each other either, right? Like, I don't like you, and you don't have to like me, but we also shouldn't rape each other or kill each other. But I don't have to like you, bro. And that's the problem that I think people are having is like, they're like, oh, but am I going to have to be nice to these people? You're going to have to be dignified and be nice, but you don't have to like them. But I don't know why me not liking you has to then result in you dying or some shit. You know what I mean? Like, why do you have to die because I don't like you? And that's what it feels like. It feels like people are saying, well, if I don't like you, I have the right to hurt you. And I'm like, what are we doing here? You know? Chet said, by this logic, so it's better to not attempt anything so weird. So we've been trained to hear that message. And the same way neurodivergents are trained to hear me say, hey, read the social room, as like read the room as a way to be kind, as I'm trying to control you. I'm trying to say, you cannot fly just because you want to fly, right? But you can create a plane and you can learn to drive it or fly it. But human beings do not fly. So we make wings, okay? You cannot exist in a reality where you think, because you will be eaten up by the realization that you can't do anything except to do the right thing, which most people are not doing, yourself included with that attitude. Because now your attitude is like, oh, what? I shouldn't do anything? Who said that? When did I say that? Why did you hear that? I never said not to do anything. I said you have to do the right thing, even if it doesn't change anything, right? But one person doing the right thing can't change everything. So 8 billion people would have to do the right thing for anything to change. Billions of people would have to do the right thing for things to change, yes? But I can't wait for you to do the right thing. So obviously me doing the right thing can't change anything except my life. So that's what I'll do. I'll do the right thing, whether you do it or not. But what am I supposed to do if you're not doing it? Okay? Right? And that's it. Chat said, I know Britt doesn't like D&D, but I'd 10 out of 10 recommend the World's Beyond Number podcast. The Wizard, the Witch, and the Wild campaign touches on themes through this fantasy. It's so cathartic. Oh, there you go. Recommendation time. All right, ready? Here we go.
So when I was dragged onto the prison boat and cable tied behind my back and pushed down, they said my name. Again, they said, welcome to Israel. Are you enjoying this now? It was a dark room. There was 5 Israeli soldiers in there. I can see the silhouettes of them. The largest man was the one who wrenched down my trousers and my underpants and whipped me from behind. My daughter, Isla, ran up to me. My real fear was what the Israeli occupation forces would do to her. And I just don't think that they understand what solidarity means. I don't think they understand what love means. That's to their detriment. It really is, because their propaganda and their violence and their brutality and their use of rape as a weapon of war and genocide really will be their downfall.
We are joined today by Julia Lamont, an award-winning Australian filmmaker and activist. Julia has returned from the Global Summit Flotilla, an international humanitarian mission carrying food, medicine, and aid to the besieged people of Gaza. And this was not her first time. She's been on that boat twice, and twice she has been intercepted, detained, and deported by Israeli forces. This time, she is coming home with allegations that have shocked the world. Thank you for being here, Julia.
It's a privilege. Thanks for having me.
So before all of this, you were an award-winning filmmaker, playwright, and poet. What did your life and work look like before the Flotilla?
I've just always really understood that storytelling is a powerful tool for social change. So the documentaries that I've made, I made one about Putin's need to get the first oil out of the Arctic when the sea ice was melting. So I followed 30 Greenpeace activists who tried to do a protest in 2013 that were put in prison for 15 years actually. So we went straight to Russia. My husband and I went to make that film. Unfortunately, he died in the making of that film. We were told to stop making the movie because obviously, the truth is a powerful tool. So, that was the film. When my partner died, that myself and our daughters, Tom's daughters, decided that as a tribute to his life, he was an environmentalist, we would continue his humanitarian efforts and we would put ourselves on the front line as a testament to how much we loved and missed him. So, that was, I wouldn't say I was radicalized, but it was when I became... instead of being behind the camera, I became someone that was prepared to use my white privilege, which, if you really think about it, it seems to get more media. I made films in Myanmar about when the military dictatorship was shifting to a democracy. I made a film about Myanmar's first all-girl band called the Tiger Girls. It was about their demand for democracy. I've done stuff with Andrew Denton about the right to dying with dignity. So, all of the stories that I have told have been as a tool to make the personal political and to hopefully affect social change. So, that's what I've been about.
Yeah, so your storytelling has been an intricate part of activism and telling the human story. And that's incredible. If I'm speaking honest, I am in awe that, you're an Australian woman and you were mentioning white privilege. So you've lived in some relative comfort in your life and security. And then you got on a boat, knowing very well there's a high risk of being, abducted by one of the world's most brutal military forces, to provide food and aid to a people that you have no religious or ethnic connections to. What made you get on that boat twice?
Well, not having an ethnic or religious connection with people doesn't mean that you don't have a human connection with people. And I'm a mother of 2 daughters. And so the reality that children are being deliberately starved and the live genocide was something, the veil was taken off. the barbarity of the Israeli regime, and because our governments, whose job were, the delivering of aid and the ending of arming Israel was their responsibility, I felt forced to go on the flotilla, but I also felt like it was a moral obligation, and that if you love people and you love the world that you live in and all the people that inhabit that world, love is a verb, and that means doing something. You can't, it's easy to talk about it, but the next...
I'm curious, she sounds like her children are maybe adults. I am curious about that, like being a mom, going and possibly dying for your activism. It poses a lot of questions about, do parents first have an obligation to their children or to the world? And that's a very hard thing to balance. And I think there's a big conversation to have there.
Extension of that is to do something. So that's not to say that I wasn't terrified. Absolutely, both times. But
yeah, Chet's confirming that they are adults now. That makes sense.
Couldn't look at myself in the mirror or talk to my children without doing it. So it's a complicated. The dichotomy of doing it and being petrified of doing it didn't really get in the way of getting on the boat a second time.
Wow. Especially with the first time, because you had experienced being detained. So you knew that there was somewhat, what was to come or potentially to come. When Israeli soldiers, they boarded your vessel, one of the first things they said to you was, "Welcome to Israel. You're going to enjoy this." Walk us through the moments that came after that.
Well, I mean, I suppose that the first thing that was really markedly different about the second flotilla was how brazen the Israeli occupation forces were. They intercepted us in the daytime.
Yep.
Last time we got 24 nautical miles from Gaza. We could see it in the morning.
Wow.
We really believed that we would deliver the aid. It was heartbreaking that we didn't. This time they intercepted us.
That is so fucked up. Like, just to add the other layer of awareness, in case you guys aren't like, it hasn't quite hit your brain yet, they have aid on a ship that they're taking to Gaza, and Israel intercepts the aid. So it's not like they got there, gave the aid, and then they got arrested. So Israel has a twofold of guilt on their conscience. They're stopping the aid from Palestinians, and they're kidnapping people and sexually assaulting them and all these horrible things. Like, it is layer after layer of unethical behavior. That's what I'm saying. To take food out of a baby's mouth, to let people starve to death, to take away aid from people who need care. It's disgusting whether it happens to Palestinians or it even happens to people in countries where there should be universal health care. And this is why I say, like, the way we think about people matters. The way we think about life matters. That's why personally, in my own personal life for Brittany, I've decided not to eat or consume animal products as a way to sort of move to mitigate the harm that I contribute to personally, right? But it plays a role in sort of like how natural or, and everything's natural, but how reflexive or how much we've been trained to think that we feel an entitlement to this. And I know we talked about it earlier, but it does remind me of Guantanamo Bay, the pictures of military soldiers going like this and taking like fun pictures in front of detainees. And the fact that many people have spent decades in Guantanamo Bay with no criminal record, it's really disgusting what we're willing to do to each other. And it makes sense from a biological animal perspective, because we are animals on a planet, right? All animals love. Non-human animals also express love in connection to their children, their other animals in their group. So love is not unique to us as humans. It is an animal experience, right? So
in international waters, I think 270 nautical miles away. So we were just south of Cyprus. We were on a legal mission. Technically, we were kidnapped. It's an act of piracy to board and intercept a humanitarian vessel that is carrying baby food. We had prosthetic limbs for children. We had metal plates to help, terrible shrapnel wounds for children, a lot of medicine and food. And we had 42 boats. There was 430 humanitarians from all around the world. And we started to hear that some of the boats at the back of the flotilla were being intercepted. So we knew that it was coming. And so we prepared for that. The training is that you get on your your life-saving device, your inflatables. You have to get rid of kitchen knives because they can say that that's a weapon. We've got our phones and they have to be thrown away straight away. But we filmed them coming towards us. We talked. There were 7 people on my boat. It was called Bianca, and I had a beautiful woman from Malaysia who was a medic. Someone from Peru and Bolivia, a really lovely sailor from Germany. We talked about what our red lines were in terms of when we would acquiesce and when we would surrender. Okay. And within that, we are non-violent. But one of the red lines was if they shoot at us, we will surrender. Yeah. And the shooting started within about 2 meters of them getting on the boat. They shot above our heads. I don't think they were live bullets. I think they were rubber bullets, but they were loud and they were close. And we didn't have a safe word. We just had a look and we'd practiced the look. And the look was, it's time to stop the boat and surrender. Okay. So that happened really early. We'd planned that we would keep pushing. We were on autopilot. The boat was going about 8 nautical miles. We had both sails up. So we had sort of planned, and maybe it was a bit cavalier, that we would continue on our mission. But as soon as they opened fire on us, we decided that that's when we would give in, really, and surrender. Wow. So they boarded the boat. They took all of us to the bow of the ship, and then they... also in the training, you're not allowed to reveal who the captain is, because normally the captain is... they decide that the captain is the organiser and they get tortured more.
Well, they target the captain.
Then they target the captain. Yep. I was the organiser on that boat, which in a way is kind of also just as bad. But our very brave and protective German captain, Uwe, who's in his 70s and is a seasoned mariner, he immediately said, I'm the captain, which was really scary for all of us, because we thought, he's really not going to have a good time when he gets put in prison. Wow. So he helped steer the boat towards the prison boat, which was specifically designed and customised to be a prison for the humanitarians. Yeah.
What did the prison boat look like? What was the environment around that?
It's huge. It's monstrous. It's grey. It's about 70 metres long. It has, a lot of weaponry on it. It's probably the most ominous thing that I've ever seen in my life. Wow. We were taken to that at high speed. It probably took about 35 minutes to get there because we were at the front of the boat. And
okay, I want to say something, but I don't want it to feel like an attack on anybody. Okay, for me, the way my brain works is this is how I weigh what I'm going to do. Okay. We could always do more, but you can't do everything overnight. The reason I say be a little less bad every day, and the reason I don't say to people, like, what are you doing though? Like, but what are you doing? Is because we can only do what we're made to do. Like, I do think the people who do these missions are so uniquely predispositioned to being these people, because this must take an insane amount of bravery, principled stance, dedication. I just can't imagine the decision to sit there and say, this is what I'm going to do. Because God knows billions of us are not doing it, right? And it's like, wow. And so my brain does do the math and it says, okay, if she's going to do this, then fuck, what can I do? Right? And so then I look at my life and I think, okay, what am I called to do? What makes sense for my joy and who I am? Because I don't think the message should be, we should all do the same thing. I think the message should be like, okay, how do I help my community? What can I do to bring down and mitigate harm? And it does start with saying, what can I do? And I think it's a process, and I don't want you to feel like, oh, I got to do everything overnight. I got to become a different person. It's more like, what can I do? Maybe it's read the right book and get educated so you can get behind the cause. Maybe it's stop shopping at Amazon or not eating animals. Maybe it's volunteering once a week. Maybe it's raising your kids a little better, having an extra talk with your kids or watching this documentary with them. Or maybe it's, figuring out what you're supposed to do is multi-layered. It's never just one thing either. Like she said, she doesn't just do one thing. She does a lot of things. We can all do many things, but it's just as important that you have a role in your small town as you could have a role in this kind of way. Okay. So I hope you feel inspired by her to do less harm, not guilted by her story to do more, but inspired to find your place in your community. Right.
and nobody had any harnesses on. Our medic Naufa, who is a beautiful Malaysian Muslim doctor, almost fell off the boat. So we almost had a man overboard situation. The Israeli occupation forces didn't help us with that. They seemed to think that that was kind of funny, that one of us would fall off the boat. And then even being able to be transferred to the prison boat was a really dangerous thing, because you're in a Zodiac and there's a lot of wash, and it's just a really hectic situation. And there's a kind of a ladder that is on the side of the prison boat, and you're kind of sort of launched onto that and then dragged up. And kind of each level of soldier or naval expert has a different uniform. So you go from sort of the khaki ones with the machine guns on our boat to then the grey uniforms, and they're larger and they're more muscular, and their weaponry, look more menacing, and they wear, they all wear balaclavas, which, when you think about it, if they were doing something that was correct, why are they trying to hide their identities? So they know that when the war crimes come, when The Hague starts to charge them with war crimes, they obviously don't want to be identified. So you do, you know that they know that this is not the right thing to do.
Absolutely. Do you think there was a top-down decision to make that experience as horrific as possible for the flotilla members so that no one would come back? And do you think it actually worked?
I don't think it worked. I think that the thing that the Israeli regime doesn't understand is that the Palestinian word sumud, which is resilience, is something that the 430 ordinary people that were forced to be on that flotilla because their governments were failing them feel more deeply than they did before they set sail. That we realise that being in solidarity with a really vulnerable population who the Israelis are hell-bent on the complete erasure of, everyone would go back in a heartbeat. And I just don't think that they understand what solidarity means. I don't think they understand what love means. And in a way, that's to their detriment. It really is, because their propaganda and their violence and their brutality and their use of rape as a weapon of war and genocide really will be their downfall. And
that's actually incredible, to go through that trauma and that difficulty and then still have the passion to want to say, I'll do this again for them is truly incredible.
Well, I just don't know. I mean, my faith is love and community, and that's something that has to be acted out, and that's meaningful to me, but it's also sacrifice. That's a really big part of how I feel like I need to live a meaningful life and be a good role model to my daughters. And I do feel like everyone on that flotilla also feels that very, very deeply now. And that it will be effective in the end.
Do you feel like you had a closer bond with the members of the flotilla when you guys returned back to Australia?
Well, the shared experience has brought us a lot closer, definitely. On the prison boat, we were able to care for each other. There was, obviously people were more traumatized.
Okay, hold on. I want to pause this because Discord said it's hard not to feel guilty. Always feel like I'm never doing enough. I don't know how to work my 50 hours to pay my bills and also volunteer and also donate and also read every book and also. I have a lot of respect for her. And I know there's a lot of privilege in even feeling like this. Then I just feel guilty again, never ending cycle. I really think this is a universal experience that everybody feels. And I actually think it is a part of being a person that we're plagued by never feeling good enough. That does play into how we show up for ourselves. So I want to read Tao Te Ching. I want to read this passage called Small Beginnings because I think it's really helpful for this. It says, avoid striving and practice non-doing. Learn to taste the tasteless, to grow the small things, and to multiply the few. Respond to hatred with kindness. Resolve difficulties while they are easy, and manage great things while they are small. All the world's problems arise from slight causes, and all great achievements have small beginnings. The wise stay out of great affairs and so establish their greatness. Many things that appear easy are full of difficulties. This is why the wise consider everything difficult. So in the end, they have no difficulties. It is really hard to be a good person. And so I say, be a little less bad every day, and the world will surely change if we were all doing this. If we're all trying to be a little less bad every day, a little thing here or there, a little change in your day here and there, I promise you it can move mountains. So do it. Take a deep breath and be a little less bad every day. Instead of thinking, all the ways I could be a better person, think of all the ways I could be a little less bad every day. It relieves you of the guilt of feeling like I have to do all of these great things. And it reminds us that if only we all did a little bit at a time, right? That's the true collective consciousness that I would love to see, is all of us coming together to realize it only takes a small effort to make such a great change. But we're all trying to do great things individualistically. That's what the US trains us to do. You, solo, individual, you alone will do great things. You, instead of all of us as a collective doing a small, right? A little small thing here and there. And then, yes, the bigger stories get highlighted, as they should. But the reality is, like, all of us have to come together to participate in our communities. This is why I say, like, I don't require people to all go to a protest, but I would say to you, don't dissuade people from protesting either. Maybe not all people are meant to march, but all people are meant to stand up for themselves. All people should be able to be heard, right? So it's also about what we move people away from doing that I think is also harmful. If we don't encourage, or if we discourage an attempt of a person, this is why I say, like, do the right thing even if nobody else is doing it. Because if you're waiting for everybody else to do the right thing, you're going to be waiting a long time.
Than others. There was a lot of
and then pause, and then you'll also be one of the people not doing the right thing because you're waiting for other people to do the right thing. You know?
Attacks. There was a lot of really bad injuries.
Yeah.
Thankfully, we had 4 medics on the prison boat that I was on. There were 2 prison boats.
Yeah.
One of them was the president of Ireland's sister, Margaret.
Yeah.
And she was really good at taking control and advocating for medication, even though that didn't come.
Yeah.
We were able to make a makeshift hospital out of one of the prison containers. We used plastic rubbish bags as slings.
Wow.
Yeah, there was... People just jumped into action, and I've never seen so much care and solidarity in something that was so atrocious.
Yeah.
And it felt like together we were really powerful, even though they wouldn't let us sleep, and they waterboarded us, and they tortured us, and they sexually assaulted us, and they used tasers.
Yeah.
I just think that love, when love really is the thing that grounds you as a community.
Yeah.
That will win. There's not a bullet that can diminish that.
Yeah.
There just isn't.
You've spoken publicly about being beaten and sexually assaulted by Israeli men on that container. I want to give you a space to share your experience, and what do you want people to understand about what happened to you?
It felt like, so when I was dragged onto the prison boat and cable tied behind my back and shackled on my ankles, and pushed down, they said my name, and they didn't say anyone else's name that was on my boat. So, I really had the fear immediately that they knew who I was and that the punishment might be escalated because I'd be punished for daring to come back a second time. They used water as means of torture. So when I was on I was lying down, my hands were behind my back, and I couldn't move my legs, and different bodies are sort of getting sardined and slammed onto you. They started to put a lot of water under my face, and every time I tried to get away from it, I'd get slapped. And I remember like being in maybe like a year 8 chemistry course, and something about you can actually drown in a teaspoon of water, and it was much more than that. So I was gasping for breath, and I did think that I was going to drown. And I had probably only been on the boat for 20 minutes. Then I was taken away. I was processed. They look at your passport. They take a photograph of you. There's a lot of insults around. You're a baby killer. You're a Jew hater. You're an Arab lover. Why are you in Israel? Why are you coming back? And if you dared to say, which I did, I said, well, I wasn't planning on coming to Israel. I don't even recognise that Israel has the right to exist. I've come to deliver aid to occupied Palestine. That's not really the wisest thing to say.
Wow. Okay.
But it's also the correct and the moral thing to remind them of. Yeah. Then I was taken to what we later ended up calling a torture tunnel. It was a shipping container. There was an open door, but it was a dark room. There was 5 Israeli soldiers in there. I could see the silhouettes of them.
Guys, this part might get really heavy, so just take care of yourselves through listening. I consider witnessing her story important when it comes to solidarity, but I also know that you don't have to force yourself to listen to her tell her story because it might be a little triggering or overwhelming, and that's okay. That's a sign that you're impacted and it's impactful. So, if you feel, I feel myself getting physically nauseous as she speaks. So I'm already feeling very sick myself. So if you guys, you need to step away, that's absolutely valid. Yeah.
The largest man was the one who wrenched down my trousers and my underpants and raped me from behind. While this is happening, you're never allowed to walk with dignity with your head held high. They put their hand behind your neck almost so that you're getting strangled, and your head is forced so far down that your head is sort of by your knees. So you are in the most vulnerable position. You can't move your hands or your legs. You're getting jostled. I got slapped. I got punched in the face. Again, they said, welcome to Israel. Are you enjoying this now? I don't know if that was half an hour. I don't know if that was 5 minutes. It was the longest experience of my life. Then I was thrown out through another door. I was like number 83 on my wristband, and my daughter Isla ran up to me. And my biggest fear of the whole flotilla, even though she is 24 and she is a really moral and a young woman of conscience, my real fear was what the Israeli occupation forces would do to her. So when she ran towards me and hugged me, and I just said, Isla, are you okay? What did they do to you? And she said, Mum, I'm number 2. I'm number 2 on my wristband. They just hadn't got their, they hadn't practiced their brutality as much as they started to enjoy it and got more cavalier in their violence. Yeah. So she was able to reassure me that, she was beaten up, and but she wasn't raped. And so, that was a really significant moment for me as a mum.
For those who just came in, this is Juliette Lamont, one of the activists that were detained by Israel, coming in on the flotilla, trying to take aid to Palestinians. And many of them were beaten and bruised and sexually assaulted. And this is Juliette sharing her specific story.
Mother of 4 kids, and I have a daughter. And I'm just trying to, just think about what you were going through, having your daughter with you on that boat. What was that experience like for you when you...
I just realised how resilient and strong and kind. I mean, I know that Isla's like that, but even though she knew that she would face more punishment, she was very loud and very articulate in advocating for medical help for the people that needed it more than her. And she continued to do that the entire time that we were on that prison boat. So it's a mixture of being really proud of your daughter, but also being really, it was just like, Isla, can you maybe be quiet? Can you maybe not be such a big mouth? But I'm so proud of Isla.
It's almost as though you were more afraid for her than you were of your own pain and
absolutely, absolutely. But we discussed it as a family, and I think it's a larger conversation. But it's like, why do Palestinian mothers and daughters not have as much value? I mean, of course they do within their own communities, but why don't they have that in the West? Why are our governments not shocked to the core that these things are happening? And why does Penny Wong finally want to meet with me and talk to me about the things that happened to me at the hands of the Israeli occupation forces rather than the Palestinian people? So I think we need to turn the lens around and really interrogate how conditioned have we been as a society, and how racist are we living on the stolen land and the ongoing genocide of First Nations people here, that white bodies have more presence and more value, and I mean, it's despicable. I think those conversations need to happen. And they really they need to happen now.
Now, I definitely want to get on to Canberra, but just before that, I wanted to ask, there were other people on that vessel that experienced systematic violence. You were saying broken bones, tasering, being sedated with unknown substances. What are some of the accounts of others that you heard that was going on?
Okay, so Isla, that was the most concerning thing. She said in the torture tunnel she was syringed with an unknown substance in her chest. She said she sort of felt sleepy, but we all felt exhausted. So, we're not really sure about what that was. But another friend of mine, Louise from Ireland, she had concussion and she fell unconscious. So we made a group decision to put her body in front of the torture chamber and advocate for some medical help. We were not sure retrospectively if that was a good idea because we didn't see her for the rest of the day. Her testimony of what happened to her is she was taken into a room. She was syringed It was a tranquilizer. 5 Israeli soldiers came in. She was about to be raped by the 5 men, and miraculously, and I think this is maybe the only good account from an Israeli soldier, is that a female soldier came in and she chastised those men, and she said, "This is not happening, and get out of here now." So she actually protected Louise from that atrocious fate. So,
you know, Israeli prison services, they denied all allegations, and they said that, no, the detainees were treated lawfully. What's your reaction to that response?
Yeah, I mean, I think the actual quote was with great sensitivity.
With great sensitivity, okay.
It's not true. When I was spat out of the torture chamber, I saw and heard, which was another sort of psychological level of torture, was the howls and the beatings and the slamming against the metal interior of that container, one by one, all of our friends being beaten and tortured, and then the moment of them getting thrown into the open air prison boat where we were, in different levels of bleeding, broken bones, tasered to the face. Some people had really visible burns to their face. It's undeniable. I think 40 people had broken ribs. Some had internal bleedings with the broken ribs. I think a lot of accounts of people being raped with guns. I talked to a lot of men. Most of the men were thrown out of that torture tunnel with their trousers and their underpants below their knees. They looked so ashamed and shocked and terrified. And now I know that the use of victim blaming and the fact that we haven't been believed yet means that a lot of those people just will not come forward. So, I mean, that's another crime in itself.
Absolutely. You know, when the Ben Gvir video came out, Canberra said, oh, that was disgraceful, but stopped short of a stronger response. In fact, Prime Minister Albanese refused to meet with the survivors of the flotilla. You guys were in Canberra yesterday. Explain to us what happened, and was there any progress?
Initially, it felt like we were treated like criminals. We had so much security. We were allowed to go. We were escorted into the estimates chambers with the Chief of Staff of David Shoebridge. It was a normal occurrence. It happens a lot when there's visitors to Canberra. Within 10 minutes of us sitting up the front, we were told, they stopped the session and we were told that we didn't have the right passes to be in there. So we were escorted out. Then we asked to go to the press gallery and they took our phones away. That we were also told that that's never happened before. So they felt like there was a high level of policing around our presence even being there, which is a citizen's right to be, you know, in the heart of democracy. These people are elected by us. They should represent us. We were all given a letter that Penny Wong wrote. I think we were there from 9 in the morning. There was a letter that was at 10:39. She wrote it, and it was very, it was a duplicitous letter basically saying, not saying that she wanted to meet us, but saying that it sounds like we've had a bit of a hard time, and you know, in the future, let's work out what we can do. But it was an embarrassing letter, and it felt like, well, that's going to be it. Then we gave the press conference. There was a lot of media there. Myself, Gemma, and Neve. 3 of the 11 Australians that were on the flotilla gave our testimony. I think that it potentially was so raw and so truthful that it cut through a lot of the disbelief. And that's when we got the phone call that Penny Wong wanted to have a meeting with us, but she said that she would be busy until 11 o'clock at night, which also felt like, well, like, can we wait till 11 before we can have an audience with you?
Did you feel like it was more of a tactic to say, to give you such an unreasonable time, but to say, well, I did offer my hand out there for you?
Oh, yeah, it definitely felt like a tactic. So now we renegotiated. She wants more testimony. She wants the x-rays, you know, all the things. I've got a broken coccyx from being kicked in the back in the torture chamber. You know, like the Turkish government were amazing, and they repatriated us. And it's the first time I cried, actually, apart from seeing my daughter second time, was when I found out that all the stewardesses and stewards and the pilots on the 3 planes from Turkish Airways were all volunteers. They decided to do it without pay. And when the stewardess told me that, it was just one of those moments where you just say, oh, there are some good people in the world. But so we got all of the tests done in Turkey.
I want to, this isn't, okay, I just want to say it again because we say it 1,000 times, right? Chat said, I'm sadly not shocked by some of the things I'm hearing. I watched the movie The Whistleblower and the UN employees trafficking girls. They showed some pretty horrendous stuff. I really caution us to relearn the way we communicate. I hear you, but when you say you're not shocked, what you're allowing is the justification of patriarchy to say, why are you so shocked? That's how the world is. That's just how it is, Brittany. That's just how it is, chat. Grow up, chat. Grow up. Why are you shocked? That's just how the world is. That's exactly the language that they weaponize against us to say, why are you so shocked? You're a woman. You went to a place where there were men with guns. What did you think was going to happen? What do you mean you're shocked? And I'm telling us all to stop expressing ourselves in this way and to say instead, I am shocked, I am horrified, I am in disbelief, I am ashamed, I am disgusted, right? What they do under patriarchy is to shame you for being shocked. To say to you that like, oh, I can't believe you don't know how the real world works. And I know that's not what you're saying, Chatter. I'm saying you've been conditioned to use this language, but now it says, I'm smart. I can't believe you don't know this. Wow, you don't know how bad the world is. The world's a horrible place. And I'm telling you, we should be shocked. We should shed tears. We should be upset because that's how they keep you from caring about people, is they tell you that's just how it is. That's just how you have to be, you know? And I internalized this a lot as a little girl. I internalized a lot of this rhetoric as a kid. And I would say, I need to be tough and I can't show feelings and I can't be shocked that the world has rape. Of course there's rape. Kids get raped. That's life, right? And so we can't sit there and say, well, I'm not shocked. It is shocking. You should be shocked. I think the world should be shocked more. To say that you already know this is to also say to other people, it's almost like a brag, like, oh, you didn't know racism was happening. Oh, you didn't know. It's to say that, well, now you know, do something, right? So we need to remind ourselves that we've been taught to think we're better than other people because we know, and also to say we're better than other people because we're not impacted, right? And that's what I say, like, you can say, this checks out. I'm horrified. I'm sick of this happening. You can express yourself. You can say it in a way that allows people to say, like, this is ongoing and this is serious. So again, no hate to the chatter, of course. Just a reminder that I got to say it every time I see it, because I think it's the rhetoric I grew up with my whole life that made us feel like when my father would put me in front of documentaries and make me watch beheadings, he'd say, this is what Arab communities are doing to people. This is what Muslim radicals are doing to people. They're beheading people. And I would sit there as a child and like become like, give myself like, oh, I can watch beheading videos. Oh, you can't watch them. Oh, you've never seen a guy get beheaded? I have. I sat through it and I didn't even cry. Ooh, I sat through it and I didn't even vomit. Ooh, I sat through it and I didn't even care. It's like, yeah, I saw that. I know how the real world works. And I'm a child. You know what I mean? Like, I don't know shit. But our parents, they teach us, they desensitize us from a young age because they think it's a form of strength, because they were desensitized at a young age from their parents, because we're told, like, this is just how the world is. This is just how it is, you know? Right? So again, I absolutely understand from a survival perspective, we almost want to cut ourselves off so we can sit through it. But I would implore all of you, if you're in a position of, if you can do it, I know some of you are at work right now, but if you can allow yourself to feel the feelings, because that's what I would want. I want us to all feel what we're seeing and say that it rocks us to our core, we're upset, instead of pretending it's not upsetting. Like when I watch a lobster get killed now for food, I'm upset. It's upsetting. And I'm not weak for feeling upset about it. It's upsetting watching animals die. I'm upset. Versus when I was younger, I'd be like, I'm not upset. This is not upsetting. We have to eat. This is just what has to happen. Nope, I'm upset. And actually, this is the point of Tao Te Ching. Tao is my favorite passage. Where is it? Is my favorite one, which is like, we don't celebrate the pain that we don't celebrate. You know what I mean? We're not supposed to be celebrating. Avoid war. My favorite, avoid war, of course, right? The killings of others fills people with sorrow, and we lament with tears because of it, right? The rulers who rejoice over killing others will never bring happiness to their people. We are taught to celebrate the death and destruction of other people, and that's why I'm saying, like, I will never celebrate the killing of other people. I will mourn for the people that I even have to kill, even in self-defense. It's devastating. So, okay, but I hear you. You're okay. Everyone is fine. It's just we're conditioned this way, and I just want to point it out, but you're fine. Like, I don't want anyone to feel like they're wrong. The world is so wrong that the only way to feel safe and sane in it is to engage in like a disassociation, which I understand. I get it. Okay.
But they haven't released the x-rays or our blood tests or anything like that. So that's been another criticism that we're making it up. Yeah. So as soon as I got back to Australia, went to the Gold Coast, I live in the Northern Rivers, went straight to the hospital and was given a rape examination and re-x-rayed. It has confirmed that I have a broken coccyx. Now in interviews, if people want me to, show and tell, I will do that. But yeah, the victim blaming so soon after something so atrocious also feels like another crime, really.
What happened to just believe all women? What happened to those slogans?
They feel like empty words, really. Now,
what would meaningful government support look like for you?
Well, for me personally, or for...
What do you think the Australian government should have done in response to what happened to the flotilla survivors?
Well, they should have met with them immediately. They should have believed them. They should kick out the Israeli ambassador immediately. They should sanction Israel. They should stop the two-way arms trade. They should stop saying that we give a certain amount of money to Palestinians when we actually give weapons to Israel to kill innocent Palestinians. We need to cut all ties. They're not an ally. They are genocidal serial killers. And the Albanese government, history will show him to be the war criminal and the complicit, spineless, immoral leader that he is. And he will be voted out. He will be. His true colours have been shown. And if it's taken...
Yeah, I just want to say, not to cut her off, I'll rewind it a few. Chat says, my mother forced me to watch Roots at a young age with no historical context. My parents used to do that to me too. And I used to think I was so cool and tough. They'd have me watch like the most violent fucking movies with like the most violent fucking rapes and shit and be like, this is real life. But they wouldn't let me watch movies with sex scenes or consensual sex scenes or consensual nudity. They were like, no, you can't see that. But you can watch like movies with like beheadings and fucking killing people in war and gunning down whatever. And they're like, you have to be tough. And I'm just like, damn. Like I really had such a complex growing up as a kid, is like strength was not being sensitive, and strength was like, oh yeah, I can watch violent movies and I don't care. And the irony of our parents, this is real life, that kind of attitude, Consensual sex is also a part of real life, but I can't see that, I guess,
430 ordinary history will show him to be the war criminal and the complicit, spineless, immoral leader that he is. And he will be voted out. He will be. His true colours have been shown. And if it's taken 430 ordinary people who should not have been on that flotilla, it was his responsibility and his government's responsibility to open that humanitarian corridor and deliver aid. History will judge him, and it's doing it now.
There are people that will tell you, well, Juliet knew how dangerous it was to get on that boat, and no one forced anyone in the flotilla to get on that boat. What would you say to that response?
I would say that if you look at any social change in the world, the suffragettes, civil rights, it's always just been a group of ordinary people who, in the absence of their governments, have been forced to step up to the plate. And a lot of the time that means putting yourself in harm's way. And a lot of the time that means sacrifice. And, is it delusional to think that we wouldn't have been killed? I'm really surprised that there wasn't a fatality on that flotilla with the amount of violence. That there would have been at least 40 people on that flotilla, doctors and journalists, who would have been over the age of 70. They have broken ribs. They were not given blood pressure medication. It's incredible that nobody died on that flotilla. But would they go back there tomorrow if they thought that Palestine could be liberated, that they could live with dignity, that their children would be safe? They would all do it. So, I don't know. I just think it's a human responsibility to do things like that with your life.
You are now part of an ICC submission alleging war crimes, so targeting crimes against humanity and torture. What does that process look like for you, practically and emotionally?
So the day I arrived back, I was asked to travel to the Netherlands to go to The Hague. And so, I'd really like to, but I'm so exhausted. Is it possible to do it by Zoom link, or is it possible for my testimony, which I've given, to be tabled? So that was allowed. I'm really glad, because I was thinking, why couldn't you tell me in Turkey? And I just would have gone. But anyway, everyone who was sexually assaulted and tortured.
Do they even get like a break? Like, what is, I want to know what their future looks like. I mean, these people need a break. They need care. You know what I mean?
Are giving their testimony. All of our medical records will be tabled, and the Israeli occupation forces and the government will be charged with war crimes. I don't know how long that will take. As we know, international law is not as respected as it should be. But it's a long game, and so has the liberation of Palestine has been almost 8 decades, and it's
that's true.
Only now in this country that we're talking about it.
I mean, God knows Palestinians aren't getting a fucking break,
We should have been talking about it 8 decades ago.
Absolutely.
But here we are, and it's a long game, and my Palestinian friends keep reminding me of that. And we will continue to advocate and to go on flotillas and, march, everything. We will do it, and I think our numbers are rising.
Members have said that it's not just about the flotilla, but like the system of violence that the Palestinians have lived through for decades. As you were saying, how did your experience and what you went through, did you have some sort of connection to what the Palestinians have been living through for decades?
I think because, on my first flotilla, I was talking to a Palestinian doctor who I think he'd been awake for, weeks, really, working on children's bodies. And he said to me, because we were so close to Palestine, occupied Palestine, what would you like to eat, Juliet? I really would like to make you some lunch. And just knowing of the enforced starvation that he was going through, that everyone that was going through there, it was just that sort of like the grace and the compassion and the humility and the kindness of even thinking about what we wanted to eat was just illustrative of the best of humanity. Every Palestinian that I've met in Australia or that I've talked to via Zoom, the Songbirds, have just personified kindness and compassion and resilience, and are the best people that I've ever met. So in my next life, I want to be a Palestinian. That's possible.
So Israel, being Israel, have denied everything, and they have impunity from Western allies. Do you genuinely believe that accountability is possible?
I think the tide's changing. I just don't think. I think the veil has been ripped off. I think the genocidal regime that is so-called Israel is for all to see. And Ben Gvir's hubris and arrogance of posting that video, and even though that was a drop in the ocean, when I look at that, I'm like, yeah, okay, that was my friend Kat, and he pushed her head down. That was nothing. Like that was the tip of the iceberg compared to what we really endured over those 4.5 days. But if that's what it takes for different countries to realise that the Israelis use this violence on Palestinians every single day, and the outrage that video sparked, I think sanctions will come. I think we're seeing it. I think different countries have already, Wong said yesterday that she's sanctioned Ben Gvir, but Ben Gvir is not one bad egg. Ben Gvir is illustrative of the whole Israeli government and most of the people that support that government. So, there's just nowhere to hide anymore. And I do think that politically we'll start to change policy, and that's really exciting. And it's really sad that it's taken, some white Western and European bodies to go through, nowhere near what happens to Palestinians. But if things can change through that, then so be it.
You're right. It's almost as though, politically aligning yourself with Israel or Zionism is becoming more of a liability than an asset. And as the generations to come, especially the younger generation, we're going to hopefully see that in the voting and who we actually elect in this country. I'm going to end with this. Do you have a message to the people of Gaza that were waiting in anticipation to see you arrive?
I really had hoped that we would have gotten to the shores. There will be more flotillas that we will advocate with everything that we have while we're here, and that our solidarity and our love is with them every day, and that we will do everything that we can to change the brutality of their occupiers and their oppressors from every country.
Thank you so much, Juliet.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Let's look at the comments. They won't show this on Australian TV. Brave lady, humanity needs more of you. Unbelievable that the news is not, this news is not in the mainstream. So what is the Australian government going to do about this? Where's our prime minister? Why is Australian media not talking about this? The whole Western media is complicit with the cover-up of these crimes. This left me in tears. She needs to make a film about her experience. The silent from Australian media, or how silent Australian media is. Brave woman, Australia should raise a voice against its citizen violations. Oh, I want to show you this. Let me see if I can see. I think. See if I can show you this. So, I think it's true. The opposition to Israel is rising. I do and will admit that I have a fear that a lot of the men that I've seen having a change of heart as it relates to the sports bubble, we'll talk about it tomorrow, seem to be anti-Israel, but they also seem to still be very misogynistic, right? So my concern is that the same groups of people that are, yes, now turning on Israel are still engaging in a lot of like bigotry and racism and misogyny. And I think that the issue we're going to have is that the same people that might protest in favor of Palestine, which is beautiful, might also be your rapist. It might also murder your family. It might also be bigoted. And so the struggle we're always going to have when we build coalition with anybody is recognizing that you might be marching next to a terrible person to fight something also terrible happening. And that is the reality of life. And that's the biggest struggle I think all of us have is like, you know, this is where you're, you know, you might be too woke of a friend, but not really, is like, who am I supposed to build coalition with is if they're also doing XYZ. I tell you this right now, I've never dated a conservative man, but at this point, was there really a difference? If the same men I dated who said they were anti-Trump and anti-fascism were also the men in the community who were causing a ruckus for people and causing issues and claiming white men suffered, you know what I mean? Like, it's not just about conservatives. It is also about, you know, have they worked on themselves? And that's why I say, like, I still need you to work on yourself individualistically, like individually, right? Now, Do Not Worry podcast, Anthony, he was reviewing Gila's trip to Israel, right? Look at this.
Because this system cannot, let
me see.
Have to protect this by any means. Here. Not even allowed to fish. Remember when the people
miss the beach here so much. Like, so here's Gila posting on Instagram, like, oh my gosh, I missed Israel. I missed being on the beach.
Gaza were being bombed for trying to fish off of their own coast. You know how many families miss this land? You know how many Palestinians around the world would love to be on this beach right now, Ela Klein? You know why they're not allowed to come to this beach? Because there's something called a Jewish majority in Israel that the government does everything it can to maintain, and that you support. You support Israel being a Jewish majority state because you believe that if Israel is no longer a Jewish majority state, that Palestinians are going to eat you alive, right? So you support the Israeli military and the Israeli government doing whatever necessary to maintain this fake little life that you have here.
That's what I'm saying. Like, how could Gila not understand that posting this is so deeply cruel and so unnecessary? Well, she's sitting here talking about women and I care about women and I care about women's rights. Like, girly. That's what I'm saying. Like, God, like, to make this decision, like, you know, to not contend with like what this means. What message are you sending to all these women? What message are you sending to Palestinian mothers? Like, what a horrible, horrible thing to post. I know your family's there and I get you want to see your family, but why do you need to post this? And for her to post it, I mean, it is a statement, you know? She's making a statement. And that's devastating. It's such a devastating statement to make. You know, Chess said this is why Cesar Chavez was able to operate unimpeded until his death. Apparently, a lot of people knew he was wicked and kept quiet to focus on the mission. I tell you, this is happening again and again and again. It will happen forever and forever. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm telling you. Now, look at this. Because Chet says you can't care about women and not think about all women. Oh, look at this. So this woman keeps coming up on my feed, and she's honestly starting to really piss me off because her transphobia is insane. Okay, it's too much. Transgender women. But she's making a very specific point that I want you to focus on here.
Women will never be able to be in actual community with actual women. And the reason behind that is because most of it is disingenuous. And in a lot of spaces, in a lot of female spaces, you will never ever see these transgender women being your advocate. They're never going to advocate for you in all of the hardships and the problems that you go through as being a born woman. The socialization that you actually have to go through, they're never going to be there. There's never going to be a parade and a march filled with transgender women going for your rights. They're not going to do that. Where are they now in this political climate? Where are they now when Roe versus Wade got overturned? Where were all of these transgender women, quote unquote, when women were being turned into incubating machines in the South? Where were they? They weren't protesting. They weren't advocating. Where are all of these transgender women whenever we start to talk about violence against women and femicide? Where are they? Because they're not around, which is why the conversation is disingenuous. As much as these are a group of people who, and I will say that, who love to claim some form of discrimination, they just so happen to be extremely cognitively dissonant of all of the hardships that any other kind of woman has to have. And that's not a coincidence. It's not a coincidence. But yeah, the real reason why most transgender women won't be able to actually be in community with women is because they're disingenuous. They don't want to be honest about the actual hardships that comes from being a genuine woman. A lot of the times they just want the ease of it all. They think being a woman is easy, and a lot of times...
Okay, we get it.
I have a serious question. Are any of the trans women scared about the 1232 bill that's currently being discussed about women being harmed who have IUDs, or are you just gonna ignore it? Are you scared? I seriously want to know, are you scared?
Here's the dilemma. Transphobia hurts everybody, and I'm sure this woman has gone through an experience that makes her feel like this is correct, but it is so historically wrong. And not even that, you sound like you don't want them there. Why are you acting like if you're calling them fake women, if you're saying not real women, if you're saying all these things against trans women, why would they enter a space where they're not welcome? Even though, trust me, they are protesting. Like, trust me, they are advocating. Like, trust me, they are there. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and it's funny being on such a queer side of TikTok as well, because I'm in so many spaces where trans women are always advocating. Like, everything they post is advocation. And trans men too. I've been watching a lot of trans men lately, and they're so outspoken. And gay men are on podcasts saying, hey, gay men also need to fight for women's rights. Like, I've seen so many gay men say, we have to start fighting for women's reproductive rights because this is about all of us. And like, yes, like, we all need to speak up, but if you are actively dedicating content, which she does, to only making content basically talking about trans women, do you know what I'm saying? So how can they be in coalition with you if you won't let them be in coalition with you? But again, when we have these conversations, like, I think the dilemma always comes and stems from that she first and foremost doesn't see them as women. And so basically, in her logic, she's basically saying, like, why are men fighting for us? Okay, you know, like, it doesn't even make sense. But trans women they're out here, they're fighting, they're absolutely doing it. They are protesting, they are doing the work. Queer women are doing it. Everyone's doing it. We're all out here. The LGBTs, it's Pride Month, we're out here. You know, it just, again, dedicating your time to making your content this, and like, she keeps coming up on my For You page, and I'm just like, girly, please do anything else but this. But that's her content. Her whole content is like fighting trans women, shadowboxing trans women, apparently. But I say this like I talked about my mother earlier, that I think this is the problem with women who are upholding patriarchy. Look, you know how our minority communities want to have safe spaces to talk without the majority listening? I want to get all the women in the room together and be like, would you get your fucking shit together? Stop saying this shit out loud. Men can hear you. Like, stop talking about women this way. Like, I almost want to get all the conservative women together and all the queer people together and be like, what the fuck are you doing? Like, stop talking like this. Men can hear you. And that's what it feels like. It feels like, because I tell you this right now, even under patriarchy, women still feed kids and they still clothe babies. Like, women under patriarchy, those of us who've been trained under patriarchy, when men aren't listening, we still get shit done. It's when men start to listen and they're in our business that we start fucking, our programming shows up, and all of a sudden women are like, hee hee, I'm so stupid, I can't lift 5 heavy boxes. And I'm just like, ugh, like, it's literally when men are around, women just default to fucking, I can't open this jar. Girl, you know you can open that jar. Okay? And it's just like, so like this happens too when I think we talk about trans people. I just think like you are just thinking about patriarchy and it's blinding you to that trans women are here, trans men are here, and trans men, like, listen, I think it's very feminist 101 to think trans men are really benefiting from patriarchy. Like, it's conditional, it's conditional, it's conditional. Like, yes, they're benefiting, but it's conditional, it's conditional. If your safety in society is conditional, it's not liberation, it's not true freedom. Okay? If it is conditional, it's not good enough. Okay? If the safety you should feel walking down the street is conditional, it's bullshit. Okay? So we're going to close up shop. This is all we're doing for today's stream. But let me just tell you this. Thank you for being here and witnessing this woman's story and listening to her tell her tale. And feeling feelings, and yes, recognizing that even at times we have to shut off our feelings to get through something. But know this, that I would rather know that it impacts you than imagine that you could hear her tell her story and you not care. Because I do think we're trained to not care because it is a sign of weakness. It takes a lot to feel. I know for a fact that I will be seen as less put together by crying on stream. I know for a fact that Hassan Piker cried one time on stream and everyone's like, oh my God, he has feelings. Like when men cry on stream, it is like the biggest reward ever. But when women do it, it's just because they're emotional and unstable. We need to allow people not only to cry, but we should allow people to be upset. And the upsetness should not come in the form of, I want these people to die. It should come in the form of, I want these people to be liberated. Because we are all obviously victims of these systems. And at the same time, there are obviously people super benefiting from them. And it's coming at the expense of everybody else. I really, truly believe it is the minority of people that are truly so evil that they are carrying out these acts. And I really believe good people are convinced by these truly evil people to do things. But the truly evil is still conditional on the fact that they were raised under this framework and system. So even the most truly evil people are still victims of existing. They were brought into this world and they are products of this world. And the products of this world, like, we are suffering. It cannot be that good if we are suffering. And yet I can leave my house every day and come back without a story of me being killed. And so in some ways I have to be grateful. And in other ways, I want this to be everyone's experience. Actually, hold on. Wait, don't leave. Hold on. Puck, give me a second. This is a really good TikTok about this, actually. Hold on.
Do you have a steady boyfriend?
Hold on. Stay here. Don't leave. You're my guest at this party. Don't leave. Hold on. Hold on. Come on, TikTok. Don't break down on me now. Thank you. Thank you for not leaving me. Hold on, please. Just wait a second.
Don't let your success story become proof that the system works. I post a lot about how I came from a Bradford council estate, got into Oxford, now work in corporate law. And I've noticed a lot of people comment under my posts. You see, this is proof that education can take you out. This is proof that the system, if the system worked, I wouldn't have to be financially providing for my family at 24. If the system worked, I'd be able to enjoy my salary with the same freedom that my peers at Oxford are able to enjoy there. But precisely because the system is broken, I'm literally my family's last hope. And yes, while my story might be inspiring for people to show what they can achieve, I'm still a signal that something needs to change structurally.
Exactly why I say deconstruct this idea that immigrant kids are meant to pay their parents' bills. Because what the fuck? Why am I paying my parents' bills when I can't even pay mine? What are we doing here? What is this story we feed ourselves? Oh, it's because the system doesn't want to take responsibility. So the system raises you to think you're a hero in your family without it needing to ever pick up the bill or help you as a community. Don't worry, you'll breed children into existence to pay your bills. And then this becomes the great story we get to tell ourselves. The fuck? The fuck? There you go. All right, girls, that's the end of stream. Thank you for being here. Thank you for sitting through a West Asian goodbye, which takes forever, but we're here. We're at the end of stream. Take care of yourselves. You really deserve it. We all do. And more than that, your community deserves it. Because let me just tell you this, post-therapy, I couldn't be as present for pre-therapy, I couldn't be as present for my community as I was post-therapy. And every day we heal and get further and further from our toxic days, we get closer and closer to being staples in our community. Stable elders in our community, educators and mentors. And that's my hope for all of us, is that we get to be there for our communities by taking care of ourselves. Okay, try not to do too much. Try to be a little less bad every day, and I promise you, it'll make a difference. I'll see you guys again tomorrow with more bad news, but we'll handle it together. Okay. Thanks for being here. Talk to you then. Bye.